No, Rex, you were where? Not gonna do. Happy fall. I believe. I believe. Okay, so I'm gonna be doing a bit of research. A bit boring, but I'm trying to prove something quite a probably work the game for a little bit. There are things actually which okay. So the primary thing that I'm trying to prove that um, websites, software overall are not actually they've degraded. They're not as performant as they used to. And it's a difficult one to prove because people come at me and they're like, "What are you talking about? Websites, websites are fine. They load fine. They do a lot more and they still load fine. Software does a lot more. It still loads fine." And I actually wonder how much of that is true. I also wonder how much of that is because of improvements in hardware, where the hardware makes you think that everything's loading fast. But what it's really doing is obscuring the fact that things are slower because you have better hardware and better bandwidth. Now, that's really difficult to prove because I'm having one hell of a time finding studies that prove that there is an increase in this article talks about slower speeds, more bugs, more defects, which I suppose is kind of a separate thing, but they did. Um, and I can't find actual studies that can like empirically prove this. There are some. I'm gonna just kind of go over them and see if I can find any. There are some that hint at it, But man, is it difficult to find. Like this one doesn't really tell you, right? It doesn't give you like a I think in order to prove it, you'd have to have a study that did some over time for the metrics we took. Hey Rui, thank you for the took took snapshots of metrics for software and or websites for a particular amount of time. You can see a degradation. Like there's no, I don't, I cannot find a, not in the manner in which, and I can't even make a feelings argument. Like, do people feel like do general users feel it? Do us as programmers feel it? Like, we just agree that this is true? It's like, no, you can't. You can't agree that it's just true. Plenty of people will defend it. And so it's like you can't even begin the argument because there's just no empirical data. I don't think this was if one at a time. Um, one might be okay. Service gap in hotel website load performance. For the International Hospitality Review 2019. Purpose of the paper is to investigate how well hotel website load time performance compared against customer expectation benchmarks. Hey Shreyas, how's it going? In a competitive market, service interactions are important. As customers move to mobile devices, the time to load a website is a critical part of, okay, long load times lead to poor service experience, customer frustration, lost business. Of course, okay. Findings. Time to load hotel websites was significantly slower on mobile devices compared to desktop. Load times on both platforms exceeded 3 seconds, which is pretty crazy. It's considered best practice. I think it's even lower than that now. Long load times represent a service gap and can cause satisfaction, resulting in a potential customer abandoning the website for a competitor site, thus affecting sales. Okay, so this is okay. This actually might hint at what I'm trying to do here. Um, if mobile is slower than desktop, it would be because of hardware limitation. So how much of the argument that websites are actually faster is because people tend to do more things on desktop? Maybe. And then mobile is built differently. Like you build differently to make mobile happy, and so everything looks fine, but what you're really doing is you're just making things work for the device they're on. And if all things were equal, it actually wouldn't stack up. The argument wouldn't stack up. V8 and Blink are not super optimized for ARM. Right. And so that's what I mean is if V8 and Blink are not super optimized for ARM, then if you were to make all hardware equal to the lowest common denominator, how fast truly are websites? How fast truly is software? Going by the lowest common denominator. And so and I guess that kind of hints at my point, which is you can make the case that things are faster on desktop and with bandwidth as well. If you don't have the kind of bandwidth that we have in like more capable countries that can handle more bandwidth, perhaps your lowest common denominator bandwidth, what would happen? What would that look like? Depends on the more bandwidth doesn't mean more speed. It doesn't mean more speed. Um, it just means that you can take on more stuff with the speed that you have, right? So let's take bandwidth out. Let's just say speed of internet services. Right? It's just speed. Let's just say the lowest common denominator of speed of internet across, everywhere. What would that look like if you just generalize the hardware and generalize the internet speed? Would websites actually be faster compared to what they were 5 or 10 years ago? This is what I'm trying to suss out, right? This is what I need to try and prove is how much of that is obfuscated by better hardware and better internet speeds. See, I don't think that's true, Shreyas. No, I don't think that's true. I don't think if you took websites and software generally as they are today and put them on the lowest common denominator hardware and internet speeds, that they would be faster than they were several years ago. I just don't see how that's true, but I can't prove it because nobody does this kind of research. Nobody actually has, at least so, as far as I can tell. You kind of have the metrics, but you can't share them in public. Why, Shreyas? Are you being paid by big tech? Keep them suppressed. Also, welcome, hello everybody who's watching on YouTube. I know there's a few viewers on YouTube. A longitudinal analysis of bloated Java dependencies. I mean, this is true, but when is this from? 2021. Like price analytics. Grace, what did price analytics have to do? I'm not sure. I actually having an ignorance moment, a skill issue moment on that one. What do you mean by price analytics? Okay, so private analytics. I see. Well, okay, that's fair, Shreyas. If you can't share them, you can't share them. But my skill issues. But I have to. But it just leaves me having to make the argument. It still does. It doesn't help me any. Shreyas being able to say, "Well, it's not true, but I can't tell you." It doesn't help me, so I have to figure it out because we should do a test. But how do you do a time-based test? Like I could even do a test of like page speed, right? So if you look at the page speed of YouTube on mobile, it fails. That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Same with the desktop. It fails. They both fail. Now you can say that it does a lot, but let's do something like I don't know, maybe Reddit. That's a bit simpler, a little bit. GitHub. Yeah, it fails. Like, now this isn't, again, to be clear, this is not like, look, this isn't like a comprehensive suite of like this definitively proves things suck, but it's an indicator, right? It's an indicator. GitHub. Oh, GitHub passes on desktop, but not on mobile. Oldreddit.com. Hang on, I'll catch up on chats. Hang on. Yeah, even oldreddit.com fails, right? Yeah, exactly, Shreyas. Exactly. Just in defense of this, right? To be fair to this, it's not the most accurate indicator of speed. It's just that it actually, to me, it's an indicator. It's a sign. Right? It's a sign that like, holy crap, why is this failing? Even these standard tests. Hang on, let me check on chat. Yeah, Laugh says GitHub. Hello, Laugh. How are you doing? Reddit sucks. It does. Hey, Master, how are you doing? Yeah, I would say the patterns used today would masquerade as being faster, but powering hardware hiding this. Yeah, Master, I agree with you. I think that anybody who is making the claim that things are that software and websites are faster today is doing so without extrapolating the speed from the hardware benefits, right? Where like you have to extract the two. You can't count on the hardware being faster as proof that software is faster. Does that make sense? GitHub sucks. Yeah, try. Yeah, see, so old Reddit fails. Laugh like it's bad. Showing core web vitals and not speed. Yeah, that's right. Not very accurate, but that's not comprehensive proof. It's not. We have to turn our gut feel into real. Yes, exactly, exactly, and that's what I'm trying to do, right? If I'm going to make this case, so look, this is a foundational argument. I need to have this argument nailed down in order to make subsequent arguments that I think are also provably true. But if I can't make the case for this argument, then I can't make many other arguments. It precludes me from making many other arguments. Like the door is locked, right? And the issue is that there are no studies that separate actual like software defects, software bugs, slowness of websites, user satisfaction on websites or software from the fact that hardware has gotten better and that internet speeds, because that those it can scummy the data. That's a stupid way to say it. Internet Archive is old websites. Download them, test them under various networks. I suppose I could do that, but then the question would be how many would I have to do before it turns into into proof? How many anecdotal websites would I have to do? Would I have to put through that mechanism before it turns into proof? Maybe to find articles, you've got to look for things that talk about locality, cache misses, branch prediction, etc. I've looked for that and I can't seem to find any. At least 20K, preferably 100K. So I'd have to go and pull down 100,000 websites from the Internet Archive and run them through different network conditions. Probably the lowest common denominator that we would consider acceptable today, and also try and run it on older hardware. I'd have to pull a Casey Muratori. I know I did pick this path, and you're not going to get server-side code from IA either. It's true. I'm not going to get Arvis is that's true. I didn't think about that. I'm not going to get server-side code. By the way, on YouTube and X, I can see your comments if you want to drop comments or whatever. I'm mostly talking to Twitch right now, but I'm really trying to figure out if there's anything out there that proves this. I don't have the Arvis is right. Like, yeah, no, we are kind of testing that, Arvis. Well, hang on. Backends were fast enough most of the time. Okay, hang on. So I'm going to push back on this a little bit. Were we really testing backend infrastructure or backend code on this? Or would we be? I really need to make a solid argument. Why would we want to test? Why would it matter? It would matter. Networks and this is actually a tough one. I don't actually know. Yeah, I wasn't talking there for a second. I don't actually know if we do need to test the backend code for whatever might live in the Internet Archive. How can you measure backend when you don't have access to it? You'd have to interface with it somehow. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to put here. There, you can see chat there. So if YouTuber X wants to join in, they can see what I'm talking about. Not to muddy the water. Bye, Shrey. See you in 5 minutes. But I feel like the overarching debate is technologies then and now. The only proper way I would say to do that is run server and client side software period, like at the time, at their modernity, period accurate, then and now, then crossover. Old PHP on modern hardware, React on old hardware. You could fake the hardware with virtualization, then serve the site in its completeness, just utilizing assets. You won't know any of the server-side delay that potentially exists, but you can measure time to first byte based on a given hardware config on server and client, given a specific point in time. So I could virtualize the hardware. Where would I even get the old code? That's the thing. So if I went to Internet Archive and I grabbed a site, where would I get its code? And how many of those could I reasonably do? And how many of those would be required to do before it became a study versus anecdotal? Like if I could only grab 5 sites with its server-side code and virtualize it and get the right conditions, would 5 be enough? I think it would. And how many of those would I be able to get? And it's crazy to me that studies haven't been done to track this. And it's not just websites, right? It's software too. Like software has become worse. How do you prove that? How do you prove that software has become like more riddled with bugs? Less, like, not as complete, I guess. Slower and more riddled with bugs. That would be like that would be the things I'd need to try and prove. How? I don't know how you would do that. Virtualizing is still shaky. I mean, it's shaky, but it's the best that we would have, I would imagine. I can't see a better way. And like studies like this one don't really help. You can? Okay, Arvis, hit me. Hit me. Hit me with a better way. Go to eBay, search for server. MITRE stats over time based on reported bugs, at least for how many more bugs have been introduced. MITRE stats? What's that? It's not a typo, is it? Actually mean MITRE stats? CVE, CWE. Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know. Sure. Search. So I'd have to pull down their records, wouldn't I? I'd have to pull down their records, and then I'd have to put like one of their feeds. And I'd have to do some kind of comparison over time. You have a Mongo server that already breaks out the records. That'd be dope. Yeah, that'd be dope. Because yeah, I'd appreciate that because that would help to determine. At the very least, I could query those records and I could see over time whether there's been an increase. But see, even that isn't definitive proof, right? Even that isn't definitive proof because you could still say, sure, fine, people have been reporting more bugs, but that could be because of like a proliferation of more access to software as these things become more accessible. Your ability to purchase hardware, to purchase a desktop or a phone or whatever, gives you more access to software. Shows trends, yeah. It's hard to get definitive proof on this. I think like it's hard to get unassailable definitive proof. So you'd have to have trend. I guess you'd have to have just trends. Like, I don't know, man. This is difficult. But it's a start. Yeah, it's a start, master. If you want to hook me up with access, I'll do some queries on it and see if I can get total record. Most research is based on trends. It's true. I just wish that I wish that I didn't have to come at this from a not so stable place, because this particular thing opens the door to a series of other arguments that I need to be able to make. But they all kind of start. This is one of the foundations. But it's a start. Trends are a start. Trends are a start. Number of bugs reported. I think the best way to approach it will be to fix certain variables and test the permutations in groups or sections. Fix certain variables. Okay, I'm having a skill issue, Arvis. What do you mean? Fix certain variables, test the permutations in sections. I'm not sure what that means. Like, I won't guess. I'll let you I'll let you teach me. Like, this is pretty. It's pretty bad. Like, CNN.com failed. Well, we're talking about testing hardware, software, server, client. Pick one of each. Keep everything else static. I think it might be. I don't know which one is harder. Is it harder to test old software, or is it harder to test old websites? Like, where would I even get old software? At least with older websites, I could go to Internet Archive and download the front end. It wouldn't. I don't have the back end code, but React is your client, modern PHP or Node, whatever is your server, using the same code base. Change the hardware, test on modern hardware, test on old hardware. Right. Right. Now, okay. Hang on. Okay, so hear me out, Arvis. Let's assume for a moment that I do that. I take a React hello world, or use VMs, test old React versus new React, or old jQuery versus right. Pick it apart. I think that's where I'd have to go. I think you pre-answered. You pre'd me. If I took a React hello world app, current one, on current hardware, and it ran slower on older hardware, freedom, then the argument will be, yeah, but it's slower hardware. What do you expect? So it would have to be old React, hello world. It would have to be period time. I guess that would be the easiest thing to do, because you can download the older libraries. You could even download like an older version of PHP, and you could virtualize it even. Arguably, if new React is slow on old hardware by some order of magnitude, then has the software gotten better? I mean, in order to mitigate arguments against that, you'd almost have to not do Hello World. You'd have to do something a bit more complex so that people can't say, well, it's not doing anything, so it's just the hardware. Derpa 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 derpa, right? And so you'd have to like something a bit more complicated in new React versus old React, new hardware versus old hardware, and then say, look, it's doing more than Hello World and it's slower. And then you can call them a herpaderp. I'm not a scientist here. That seems like the starting point of the conversation. It would have to be the starting point of the conversation. Yeah. And then for software, I'd have to prove something similar, like, I don't know. I think most studies are done in waves and built upon each other. Yeah. How many software, I don't know, some kind of like how much software is built in a Electron? What are you doing? Streaming on Father's Day like a degen? Whatever. Whatever. Oh no, I think this thing froze. You're gonna have to stare at my ugly mug. Yeah, it froze. My machine froze. See? Do you see? My machine froze. Like, this is why your kid and I are gonna break off and make our own streams. Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing froze. Fine, I'm gonna have to get this running again. See, like, why did it freeze? I don't even know. I don't even know why this thing froze. But like, this happens all the time. It didn't even blue screen me, it just froze. So I have to power this down. I have to power this up. Problem is really every possible goalpost has moved. What do you mean, Arvis? Like hardware and stuff? Like nothing's what it was before, so it's difficult to compare against how things were, kind of a thing. Like I'm try to follow. Have to get this thing going again. Well, hardware has improved in more complicated ways than just faster. Software not only moves in step with that, but can, in a sense, exploit changes to their benefit. So everything changes in non-linear ways. I agree. I gotta say, it feels like, and again, this is just feelings. Feels like what happens is that hardware gets better, and then people like software, websites, etc., try to maximize the available room that the hardware provides them. You know what I mean? Like, give people room and it will do it, and people will use it. But that doesn't mean that they actually improve the code. They're writing crappy code, but they can get away with the fact that it's crappier or slower because the hardware takes care of it for them. That's what it feels like. Let's see. Okay. If floating point math gets faster, you might see software trends start using floating point math instead of integer math as a not real world example. Yeah, it's totally made up. Yeah, just not apples to apples if you're comparing software that was previously geared towards integer math when the new software is geared towards floating point math. Right, but if okay, so if let's say I'm right, let's say my feelings are right, and and software is indeed slower. This needs because people are writing worse software, then I should be able to prove that, regardless of whether Hey Tack, good to see you, man. Thanks for the lurk. Regardless of whether people are using floating point or integer math, I think, man, this stuff is complicated and really boring. Like, this is not an exciting build a video game stream. Yeah, Tack, I know. I know, Tack. If I ask anyone except for Shreyas is the only person who defends software and websites are actually better and faster. But it's mind-boggling to me because if you just ask in general, people are like, yeah, no, things are slower and they have more bugs. And I mean, this is someone's college thesis here. Yeah, but it ain't mine. Yeah, Arvis. Hey, Travis. Complicated and boring. Sounds like we're talking about Vulkan. Yeah. Yeah. It's just it's difficult to make arguments like you know, if I'm gonna attack ideas that people spread through like their content, I need to have something that's like, you know, it begins somewhere, right? And this is one of the beginning points. So yeah, it's complicated and boring, unfortunately. But I kind of have to because, like, you know, some things don't need this, right? So if you're going to say, like, I don't know, um, okay, yeah. So if you're going to make a case for, no, I got one. Okay, so here's one that doesn't need this, right? It would be like, there's a popular streamer. This one jumps to mind. There's a popular streamer who has this short, and it's like people come on my stream all the time and they ask me, how do I get started with programming? Here's my answer. And you think, like, this guy's a popular, like, celebrity streamer, he's gonna give a pretty solid answer, right? And his answer is like, you're not setting the bar high enough. You need to reach for the stars. Think big. And it's like, okay, that's an easy thing to like argue against. That's stupid advice. That's the stupidest non-answer ever. If you want to know how to get started, you do, yes, indeed, set yourself some nice big goals so that you have something to look forward to, and then you break it down into small goals so that each day, maybe even each hour, it might seem stupid, but it's such a small goal that it's extremely attainable, and you just work goal by goal to the bigger thing. You need both. What does that even mean? Exactly. Okay, good to see you. Yeah, attack. Yeah. It doesn't mean anything. But he is he's one of the most popular programming streamers out there, especially on Twitch. And like, that's the stupidest answer ever. You're not reaching high enough. How do you get started? Reach for the stars. What? Okay, so that one. Good to see you too. Hope you're well. I'm doing well, man. Thank you. So like those kinds of arguments are not hard. Those kinds of ideas, they're not hard to attack or to deconstruct and show that it's just a bunch of meaningless nonsense. Doesn't mean anything. There's real advice. There's actual real advice you can use if you want to get started in programming. But if you're going to make a case like, I'm trying to tie an argument, like I'm trying to tie a logical entailment of the initial argument down. So downstream of software is more bloated, websites are more bloated, etc. It would be something like, okay, let's say my argument was React is a bad framework. Let's just, or VS Code is a bad editor. It takes too long to load. Yeah, why does Word take, right. If you want to take any of these arguments and you want to say they take too long to load, you shouldn't be using them, you shouldn't support them, we should be building better things. Right? And so then someone can come at you and go, why? They're fine. And you'd have to prove that they're not. Word 6 from 1992 was damn near instant, right? Because we have the power to. Yeah. So, like, I don't know. This is... My computer has 8 threads. Yeah. But that should put man on the moon. It's true. Attack's hitting the right points here. Attack is hitting the right points. It should be able to 8 times at once. That's right. That's right. So why is it not? Right? Why is it not? Once per second. I mean, Office probably because of Office 365, OneDrive integration, BS on top of BS, but I firmly believe that's because of poor management on MS's end. Because no one builds tycoons on assembly anymore, you know? Because people stop caring about performance. Right. See, this is the thing. People stop caring about performance. That's right. Oh, textures are too big? I'll make an assembly, don't worry. Like, because everyone wants to use frameworks instead of actually programming. Right. But how do you prove that? Where's the proof? I think a lot of people would agree, but where's the proof? Meanwhile, Unreal Engine bloating 50 gigs to begin. Yeah, no, I know. Like, these are things you can point to, and most people would agree, but how do you prove it? People care. I know plenty of people who care about Excel taking 4 hours. This is right, Arvis. Right. How do you prove it for those behemoths? Isn't the focus on easier for some rando in the future who doesn't even work here yet to modify? Right, laugh. So you can make a case that you can make an argument that because of churn, because programmers tend to like jump ship every 1 or 2 years, because that was the hot thing to do in order to get a pay bump, then companies had to focus more on what helps programmers onboard really quickly so that when they inevitably offboard, because why invest in them anymore, things can continue moving, right? And so then the focus becomes more on that than on performance. How do you prove it? It's proven by the fact that 60% of the internet went down because the leftpad.js package got removed from npm. Says everything you need to know about modern development. Is that true? Was it really 60%? Leftpad npm js. It was a lot. It broke some of the most important packages of all npm. You can't compete with Ubisoft shipping 15 games a year all bloated. You could spend 2 years polishing the game like a movie that is filmed in 6 months and could have the time to edit it. Right. Sure, it was 60%, but it was a lot. Some people too, that's the Ruby gems we get once a decade. But it shouldn't be that way, right? It shouldn't be that way. And if more people did what the Ruby gems do, there's actually more money in it. So now good luck. You can easily compete with Ubisoft in making a video game that's entertaining to play. That is true. That is true. Oh yeah, npm style dependency help being wank is 100% provable. Where is that proof? Where is that proof? It feels like it should be provable, but where is it? I have to go looking for it. Yeah, I'm gonna start making a doing it on the side here. I'm gonna start making a list links. I mean, you're probably discovering a bit of the problem, Spiro. We don't keep track of this crap because everyone sees a new shiny thing, coughs zig, and immediately reaches for it. Arvis, I will permaban you. Wasn't there a package someone made to make a point about it? That would be the everything. That was the everything package, I think. I'm pretty sure. npm everything. Yeah. Thanks, Travis. On March 22, 2016. And I'm suffering from skill issue. Okay. On March 22, 2016, remove a package, left pad from npm. Forcibly, its kick. As a result, thousands of software packages that utilize left pad as a dependency, including Babel and the React, were unable to be built or installed. Technology corporations, including Meta, PayPal, Netflix, Spotify, were potentially affected after the removal of left pad utilize. Okay, several hours. The company left behind the platform manually restore the package to the widespread disruption. In response, npm disabled the removal of a module. Okay, but how many sites were taken down? Aftermath, immediate effects. Maintainers released hotfixes. An hour after the packages had been deleted, published a post. I've just liberated my modules. Okay, to address the issues, another developer recreated the left pad. Okay, there were reactions. There was an impact. The potential for the disruption of an npm package to lead to a supply chain attack was also highlighted. In addition, the widely number of individuals. Okay, but it doesn't actually say that, like, how many things got shut down, like how many. It doesn't have any numbers, right? It just says it was bad and lots of people depended on it. And you could make the case this is probably not like too far off from the right kind of information, like as an indicator. But it's not something that you can point to and like have like a definitive it took down X% of the internet. Look at what this thing did. It is an indicator of the over reliance of stupid packages frameworks, right? So Travis, to your point, if you can hit big companies like PayPal, Netflix, and Spotify with a really stupid left pad thing, which is, I think the code is right here. Contents of left pad. I think it's literally this. If this can take down companies like PayPal, Netflix, Spotify, yeah, this is this is pretty bad. Yeah, that's all it was, right? So this is a good, like, it's an indicator. It's a good indicator. So I guess if we have enough indicators that are like this or similar to this, then you can begin to construct an argument about the state of the tech industry and why you can't really defend its current state. Okay, so then the only other thing I could say if I'm playing devil's advocate is, yeah, this is 2016. Things are better now, right? Are JS strings mutable internally? It's str. The strings are internally mutable, I believe, in JS. Yes. Is it better now though? See, I still use multi-gigabyte node modules. Right. Right. I agree. And hang on. I don't think anyone learned from this. No, I would agree. Um yeah. Okay, this one. Where is my the real lesson here is don't have dependencies for things you can do yourself in 30 seconds. Which comes down to the cost benefit analysis of whether programmers should be handling these things on their own. And what the cost is and what the cost is up front and what the benefits are down the road. Thanks, Maurice, on for the awesome. Thank you, mods. This is the entire code base, and to me, this is the package equivalent of a GitHub PR that fixes typos. Right. So this is a good article because it goes really well. It ties into the argument really well that when you have a many gigabyte like npm structure, right? You're opening yourself up to all kinds of software security issues. And then you bring that into Electron for desktop app. It's essentially the same thing. You do it in the back end for server apps, and it's essentially the same thing. Damn it, Arvis. So, I mean, this isn't exactly definitive proof that things are getting worse, but it's an article that kind of tells you why when you do have these things, if you do have these things, it's actually magnitudes of order worse, because it's not just a bloat and slowness, it's also security issues. And the left pad incident is a direct tie into that. So that's one that I would probably keep. Let me see what else I have. What is this one? Let me put this one over. Let's see. Signing things to come, predicting the perception of above the fold time in web browsing. Content is key in web quality of experience estimation. How long it takes to render and visualize the visible parts of the web. This is referred to as above the fold. Speed index has been widely used to estimate perceived web page loading, yada yada yada. Been actively introducing an innovative interactive features such as animated multimedia content aiming to capture the user's improve. Literature shows that for the websites with animated content, the estimated ATF time using the state-of-the-art metrics may not accurately match ATF time as perceived by users. This study introduces a new metric, plausibly complete time, that estimates ATF time from a user's perception of websites with and without animations. PCT can be integrated with the SI and WebQoE models. The accuracy, okay, so that I suppose what they're trying to get at here is that the way that users perceive it is not exactly the way that it is. Which so I guess users would perceive it worse. There's a Minecraft mod that gets rid of the title screen fade in because people perceive it to be slow. Yeah. That's the same thing as like the I was just about to say laugh. It's the same thing as the loading things like in React where you load up a page, or in like Vue does this too. A lot of front end frameworks do it where they have like the placeholder content and it's doing like a loading mechanism until the content comes in and hydrates. I don't understand how that's better. I don't think users perceive that to be faster. Yeah, a daisy wheel. Yeah. I don't see how users look at that and go, well, clearly this website is faster. I think that's just frustrating. So I don't see how that's a win for client-side frameworks. mean, to be honest, these days those loading screens are intentionally slow. Sometimes they are, yeah. Sometimes they are. But again, like how you can consider that a win for modern front end frameworks is, I mean, that's crazy to me. To be clear, it's not meant to communicate faster. It's to communicate we aren't done. We're still working on it. Right, but you see how there's a difference though, Travis, right? Where it's like, hey, if you use a front end framework, um, you will be faster, right? That's kind of like the point. Like, hey, instead of building this front end like widget using server side rendering, do it using React and it'll be faster. But it's not. All you're doing is loading on the front end, right? If the brand intros went as fast as the game takes to load, you wouldn't see them, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah. Okay. This one seems promising. How web bloat impacts users with slow connections. Okay, so this guy did his own. I don't even know when this was. People would stop being so fancy with all the effects and stupidity. Things would be a lot faster. Yes, I agree. And I actually think that there are probably a lot of users who would be okay with less fancy animations and whatnot if the thing they were using was like, just boom, 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 instead of this kind of like, oh, I'm trying to give you an experience, here's an Excel spreadsheet that has like a cool animation. Bro, I'm just trying to do my taxes. Okay, a couple of years ago I took a road trip from hang on. What can I see when this was? Is there like a date to this? I don't think there's a date. Um, this is why I use static HTML. Does it look great? No, maybe not, but it's fast, gives you the content instantly. Yep, it's instant interaction, which should be no problem in today's day. Can I see? No way, March? March 16, 2024. Yeah, board. That's right. Instant gratification. That's right. I have the animation speed on my D set to high, so I can only notice it for context menu. Yeah. Okay, so this is from March 16, 2024. So it's actually pretty recent. So that's good. This is a good thing. Okay, so this is promising. A couple of years ago, I took a road trip from Wisconsin to Washington, mostly stayed in rural hotels on the way. I expected the internet in rural areas too sparse to have cable internet to be slow, but I was still surprised that a large fraction of the web was inaccessible. Some blogs with lightweight styling were readable, as were pages by academics who hadn't updated the styling on their website since 1995. There you go. Immediately. Look at the start from this year. This is an article from this year. Immediately, the older websites were readable and accessible, right? Stuff from 1995, no problem. Good to see you, board, on YouTube, by the way. But very few commercial websites were usable other than Google. When I measured my connection, I found that the bandwidth. Yeah, missed pages from the old web. Me too. I'm just going to zoom in a bit. Let me just add here. Very few commercial. Okay. When I measured my connection, I found that the bandwidth was roughly comparable to what I got with the 56K modem in the 90s. No problem, board. No problem, man. The latency and packet loss were significantly worse than the average day on dial-up. Latency varied between 500 ms and 1000 ms, and packet loss varied between 1% and 10%. Those numbers are comparable to what I'd see on dial-up on a bad day. Okay, so this is great because he makes a comparison on as to the speed that he was getting as he was going on this trip compared to what you would get back in a particular time period, the 90s, right, on modems. Despite my connection being only a bit worse than it was in the 90s, the vast majority of the web would not load. Why shouldn't the web work with dial-up or a dial-up-like connection? I agree. It would be one thing if I tried to watch YouTube and read Pinterest. It's hard to serve videos and images without bandwidth. Right, but my online interests are quite boring from a media standpoint. Pretty much everything I consume online is plain text, even if it happens to be styled with images and fancy JavaScript. In fact, I recently tried using W3M, a terminal-based web browser that, by default, doesn't support CSS, JavaScript, or even images for a week, and it turns out there are only 2 websites I regularly visit that don't really work in W3M, Twitter and Zulip, both fundamentally text-based sites, at least as I use them. Wait, what is this trying to say? I recently tried using W3M for a week. Turns out there are only 2 websites I regularly visit that don't work at W3M, Twitter and Zulip. Okay, I see what he's saying. Okay. More recently, I was reminded of how poorly the web works for people on slow connections when I tried to read a Jolon software post while using a flaky mobile connection. The HTML loaded, but either one of the 5 CSS requests or one of the 13 JS requests timed out, leaving me with a broken page. Instead of seeing the article, I saw 3 entire pages of sidebar, menu, and ads. He's got a Twitter thing. Let me make sure I don't open up something I didn't open up. Open it up over here. Okay, I followed a link to Jolon software, got 3 pages of ads before getting to any content. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is right. Before getting to the title, because the page required some kind of layout modification to display reasonably. Pages are often designed so that they're hard or impossible to read if some dependency fails to load. Right. On a slow connection, it's quite common for at least one dependency to fail. After refreshing the page twice, the page loaded as it was supposed to, and I was able to read the blog post, a fairly compelling post on eliminating dependencies. Travis's perfect example. Explain to me why Gmail takes 18 plus seconds to download 45 megs of data. Why are either of those so high for a male reader? Right. 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 I agree. I agree. Why does that need to be that way? Complaining that people don't care about performance like they used to and that we're letting bloat slow things down for no good reason is old man yells at cloud territory. That's us. We're the old men yelling at clouds, and I am trying to prove that these clouds are actually thunderstorms. And they're in your house. That's what I'm trying to do. These ain't no windmills, bro. Old men unite. Old men unite. These ain't no windmills, bro. The windmills are in your house and they're here to take your kids. I probably like, at the ripe old age of 38, I probably sound like that dude who complains that his word processor, damn, Travis mentioned, and my money, yeah, take your kids and your money. Travis mentioned the dude who complains that his word processor, which used to take 1 meg of RAM, I give Google too much money. Yeah, bored. Yeah. Takes a gig of RAM. Right. Sure, that could be trimmed down, but there's a real cost to spending time doing optimization. Just buy better internet, bro. Hey, Sergeant, how you doing? How you doing, Sergeant? Good to see you, man. But there's a real cost to spending time doing optimization. And even a $300 laptop comes with 2 gigs of RAM, so why bother? This is Dude, this guy nails it. He's nailing the sentiment behind the decisions that happen when you're creating a website or you're creating software. We all know this to be true, but good luck proving it. And if you can't prove it, right? If you can't prove that these are the decisions being made, then anybody who wants to pearl clutch in their own world to say like, no, don't make me work harder, is going to come back to you with the argument of prove it. Because take that attitude, multiply it by thousands, right? htmx crew incoming, React devs are commies. Yeah. Let's go, Fennec. How are you doing? Yeah, no, it's true. Take that. Yes, take the attitude, multiply it by thousands. But what's going to happen, this is what I'm saying. What's going to happen is that developers who don't want to admit that they're going to have to work harder are going to argue against this. And they're going to go, no, you can't prove it. Honestly, I think the alternative way of working is actually easier overall. Okay, good man. And you, ads. Oh, sorry, ads. I'll let the ads go. Bored. Lead htmx.ceo. Adreno, he. Thank you for the follow just now. I'll say it again when ads are done. Okay, ads are done. Adreno, thank you for the follow just now. Fennec, I'm doing well, man. I'm glad to see you here. Good streamer, still staring at the edge of my screen. Yeah. Same, thanks, Adreno. I really appreciate the follow, man. We're doing a little bit of research because I'm trying to create some foundational arguments because I'm going to go on I'm leading the war charge against big tech and very popular streamers who can crush me under their boot, and I really have to get my arguments really well constructed. So that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, catch up on chat. You have to give up some of your stuff and learn stuff. That's hard, but in the long term, it will be easier. Yes, exactly, Laugh. That's what I need to prove, right? The argument against programmers who don't want to work hard. If I come up to the industry, let's say I go up against the entire industry, and then I go, you guys suck. You're doing it all wrong. We have to do harder. We have to work harder. It will mean more money for everyone. It will be good user experience and more money for everyone than what we're all doing now. You know, there's going to be a whole bunch of people, influencers, celebrity streamers in programming, tech industries as a whole, like companies as a whole, who are going to be like, no. You're cutting into my bottom line. We can't be having that. And they're going to come back and say, yeah, prove it that things are worse. Yeah, Fennec. Yeah, okay. Okay says, I'm not sure if this is completely related, but anecdotally, at my last job, perf was often an afterthought. I agree, it is often an afterthought. At my last few jobs, it's been often an afterthought. Instead of improving things like DB queries and structure, people would just scale up the hardware. Same with application code. Yes, that is the default answer to, in my experience, which again is anecdotal, the default answer to we're having problems dealing with an influx of users, for example, is throw money at it with hardware. StyleX wins. Yeah, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this with you. Hands to caution. Yeah, bored. Everyone wants diversity in cushy coding jobs. Nobody wants diversity in sewage workers. Yeah. Just tell people do better. They love that. Yes. No, but you know what, Bored? I actually think that there is almost a dividing line, that there's almost strictly a 50-50 dividing line. There are people who would genuinely benefit from hearing you need to do better, because this is a societal thing. We have coddled people way too much. You're enough the way you are. It's okay. Everything's fine. You don't have to work hard. Government will step in and take care of things for you. AI, all this BS, it's not true. And I think people are actually looking for someone to say, no, there's more for you to do. We have lots of work to do. And you can do this work, and it might not be the best work ever, but it's good, solid work. AI loves me. Yeah, I'm bored. Okay. AI doesn't love me. Okay, let me keep reading this because this seems good. I probably sound like that dude who complains. Okay, we read that. Could it be? But it's not quite the same situation. Here we are. It's not just nerds like me who care about web performance. When Microsoft looked at actual measured connection speeds, they found that half of Americans don't have broadband speed. What? From 2018. I'm not sure how that would look today, but and this is a bit of an old blog post. I'd have to okay, so I would have to fact check this for today. But let's assume it's true. Heck, AOL had 2 million dial-up subscribers in 2015, just AOL alone. Outside of the US, there are even more people with slow connections. I recently chatted with Ben Kun, I guess, who spends a fair amount of time in Africa, about his internet connections. Quote, I've seen ping latencies as bad as 45 seconds and packet loss as bad as 50% on a mobile hotspot in the evenings from, I don't know how to pronounce that, Jijiga, Ethiopia. I'm here now, and currently I have 150 ms ping with no packet loss, but it's 10 a.m., which probably means low usage, I presume. There are some periods of the day where it never gets better than 10 seconds and 10% loss. The internet has gotten a lot better in the past year. It used to be that bad all the time, except in the early mornings. Speedtest.net reports 2.6 Mbps download, 0.6 Mbps upload. Holy crap. I realize I probably shouldn't run a speed test on my mobile data because bandwidth is really expensive. Canadians' internet are bad as Americans? Pretty much. Our server in Ethiopia has a fiber uplink, but it frequently goes down. We fall back to 16 kbps satellite connection, though I think normal people would just stop using the internet in that case. Yeah. If you think browsing on a 56k connection is bad, try 16k from Ethiopia. What is this link? What is this? Oh, is this someone who's is this someone who's using like a slow internet connection to show how different pages load up? Oof. I mean, this was from 6 years ago, but still. Yeah, I might keep that one open. Everything we've seen so far is anecdotal, right? Which is the problem. It's anecdotal, and people who wanted to pearl clutch and defend their position are going to argue against this. Depends on the area. I have 1 gig up, down, but that's not always available. That's mostly in big cities. Yeah, it does depend on where you are, right? And you would imagine that with the latest advances in, software and browsers and hardware and internet speeds and bandwidth, that things would improve overall. But I just don't think that's true. Let's load some websites that programmers might frequent with a variety of simulated connections to get data on page load times. Web page test, that's a good one. Let's see how long it takes a website to load and why it takes that long from locations all over the world. It even lets us simulate different kinds of connections as well as load sites in a variety of mobile devices. The time listed in the table below are the time until the page is visually complete, as measured by web page test. That's the time until the above the fold content stops changing. So the URL would be like, okay, let's see what this is. Is this even around anymore? I wonder how old. Yeah, okay. So this, right? It's just text. Yo, it's just text. Bro, it's just text. All right. So on, what is this? Fiber? Load time in seconds. 5. No, wait. Okay, now I have to put on my read charts. Bad. Oh, I see. So depending, okay. Depending on your speed, this is how long it takes to load the site. So on dial-up speed, do you really think that this page should take 1.8 seconds? And then even down here, like what is taking so long? Look, Reddit. Look at Reddit. Look at how long Reddit takes to load. That's crazy. And look at these sites like Bing, Reddit, Joel on Software, Google, WordPress, Amazon. Once you start hitting like the dial-up phase, they just like they blow up. There's no advances in charging poor people in poor areas less money for equal access. Yeah. Coming back on the loading spinners, instead of loading the whole page and loading just the layout and lazy fetching the rest, the experience is better than having to wait 15 seconds of white page. Right. So I think the argument tack is that it doesn't have to be that way. You can have your cake and eat it too. And if you were to focus properly on your front end, it doesn't have to be that slow, and you don't need to have loading spinners before everything gets loaded up. Right? Like there's no reason why a dial-up connection should take 2 seconds to load this. That's crazy. It's absolutely bonkers. But frameworks are great. Yeah. What if I like slow 3G? How long would it take? 2 seconds on slow 3G. On average, 2 seconds to load this page on slow 3G. Like, why? What on earth is taking that long? This might be an issue of the server, but even still, right? Like the new Reddit, Bing, and everything, server hops, yeah, Amazon, all of these things, they're taking way too long, even on a fast internet connection. Can't really blame frameworks. It's mostly bad dev. We just benchmarked our new Next.js replatform at work. We had 20 to 40 scores in WCV scored before. We got 99 with Next. Just have to build right, and most places just aren't. So I think I might have to eat some of my own words here, because I do blame frameworks for some of these issues. But I think I'm coming to the realization that my argument isn't actually the frameworks. It's that these frameworks are actually needed to begin with. I think that's my real argument. We shouldn't need Next. We shouldn't need React. These shouldn't be frameworks that need to exist in order to accomplish what they accomplish. The actual fact that they exist is they're symptoms of a problem. And all they do is they hide the fact that there is a problem. That's my real argument. And not only should we not have these frameworks, we shouldn't need them, but they hide the fact that there is a problem. What is this tag? Yeah, that one. Yeah, I remember that. I think the fact is frameworks are used as a crutch to make people who can't program able to build stuff. It's no code tools light. Correct. It caters to the weakest portion of programmers who haven't been trained correctly, who don't know what they're doing. It's okay to not know what you're doing. Making things that cater to you, it's, again, this goes back to a societal thing. Making things that cater to the lowest common denominator doesn't actually help them. It actually doesn't help them. It's good for these programmers to have to go through some struggle and learn. It makes them better. I blame them for a lot, but more so because people don't bother to learn outside of them how things work. So they also use the already slower than raw.js frameworks. Wrong. Correct. It's a compounded problem. It just adds more problem to the problem. No framework will ever be faster than raw.js, right? Imports 3 more libraries, imports more RAM, downloads more internet. Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. It shouldn't be that way. But again, generates more swap. But again, prove it. Prove it. Because people like Shreyas are going to come on and be like, no, you're wrong. Each row is a website. For sites that support both plain HTTP as well as HTTPS, both were tested. URLs are HTTPS except where explicitly specified as HTTP. The first 2 columns show the amount of data transferred over the wire in megabytes. 23 megabytes? 4.4 for Amazon, 1.3 for Reddit, 1.3 for Bing. That's still a lot. Which includes headers, handshaking, compression, etc., and the number of TCP connections made. Holy cow. The rest of the columns show the time in seconds to load the page in a variety of connections, from fiber to less good. Bad has the bandwidth of dial-up, but with 1,000 ms ping and 10% packet loss, which is roughly what I saw when using the internet in small rural hotels. This emoji simulates a 16 kbps satellite connection from Jijiga, Ethiopia. Rows are sorted by the measured amount of data transferred. Okay, this is pretty bad. The timeout for test was 6 minutes. Anything slower than that is listed as fail. Pages that fail to load are also listed as fail. A few things that jump out from the table are: a large fraction of the web is unusable on a bad connection. Even on a good 0% packet loss, no ping spike dial-up connection, some sites won't load. That is insanity. Some sites will use a lot of data. Front-end masters is fast? Yes, I guess it is. Dev speed and DX is also a thing, though. Sure, raw.js is faster, but dev speed is not. Onboarding is not a bespoke architecture, is not faster. Bespoke UI components not faster. Coding horror blog is 23 MB. Yeah, that's not an argument against learning raw.js. It's an argument that standardization is also important. Onboarding is also important. It is, Sergeant, but it's not. Which of those two? Which is more important? You can only pick one. So you get to pick, Sergeant. Is developer experience, developer speed more important than the performance of the application? You probably have to keep in mind add CDN requests. True, because you know ads. That's true. The web on bad connections. As commercial websites go, Google is basically as good as it gets for people on a slow connection. On dial-up, the 50% dial page load time is 1.5 minutes, but at least it loads. When I was on a slow shared satellite connection in rural Montana, virtually no commercial websites would load at all. I could view websites that only had static content via Google Cache, but the live site had no hope of loading. Some sites will use a lot of data. Although only 2 really big sites were tested here, there are plenty of sites that will use 10 to 20 megabytes of data. Yes, if you're reading this from the US, maybe you don't care. But if you're browsing from Mauritania, Madagascar, or Vanuatu, loading Coding Horror once will cost you more than 10% of the daily per capita GNI. Page weight matters. Despite the best efforts of Massiage, the meme page, that page weight doesn't matter, keeps spreading around. As far as I can tell, the top HN link of all time on web page optimization is to an article titled Ludicrously Fast Page Loads, a guide for full stack devs. At the bottom of the page, the author links to another one of his posts titled Page Weight Doesn't Matter. Usually, the boogeyman that gets pointed at is bandwidth. Users in low bandwidth areas, 3G developing world, are getting shafted, but the math doesn't quite work out. Akamai puts the global connection speed average at 3.9 megabits per second. I see what they're trying to say. The ludicrously fast guide fails to display properly on dial-up or slow mobile connections because the images time out. On Reddit, it also fails under load. Ironically, that page took so long to load that I closed the window. A lot of GIFs that do nothing but make your viewing experience worse. I didn't even make it to the GIFs. The header loaded, then it just hung, etc. The flaw in the page weight doesn't matter because average speed is fast, is that if you average the connection of someone in my apartment building, which is wired for 1 Gbps internet, and someone on 56K dial-up, you get an average of 500 Mbps. That doesn't mean the person on dial-up is actually going to be able to load a 5 MB website. The average speed of 3.9 Mbps comes from a 2014 Akamai report, but it's just an average. If you look at Akamai's 2016 report, you can find entire countries where more than 90% of IP addresses are slower than that. Yes, there are a lot of factors besides page weight that matter, and yes, it's possible to create a contrived page that's very small but loads slowly, as well as a huge page that loads okay because all of the weight isn't blocking, but total page weight is still pretty decently correlated with load time. Yes. Since its publication, the ludicrously fast guide was updated with some JS that only loads images if you scroll down far enough. That makes it look a lot better on web page test if you're looking at the page size number, if web page test isn't being scripted to scroll. But it's a worse user experience for people on slow connections who want to read the page. If you're going to read the entire page anyway, the weight increases, and you can no longer preload images by loading the site. Instead, if you're reading, you have to stop for a few minutes at every section to wait for the images from that section to load. And that's if you're lucky and the JavaScript for loading images didn't fail to load. Right, you're just kicking the can down the road. Sergeant, it's a balance. You have to balance DX and performance. They're not mutually exclusive. You can strike a balance between TX and site performance if you try hard enough. That said, performance should always trump DX if there's a decision where one sacrifices the other. I agree, Sergeant. If you try hard enough, you can get both. But it should be performance. Right. The average user fallacy. Just like many people develop with an average connection speed in mind, many people have a fixed view of who a user is. Maybe they think they are customers with a lot of money with fast connections and customers who won't spend money on slow connections. That is very roughly speaking perhaps true on average. But sites don't operate on average, they operate in particular domains. Jamie Brandon writes the following about his experience with Airbnb. I spent 3 hours last night trying to book a room on Airbnb through an overloaded Wi-Fi and presumably a satellite connection. OAuth seems to be particularly bad over poor connections. Facebook's OAuth wouldn't load at all, and Google sent me round a pick an account, please re-enter your password, pick an account loop several times. It took so many attempts to log in that it triggered some 2FA nonsense on Airbnb that also didn't work. Confirmation link from the email led to a page that said, please log in to view this page. And eventually I was just told to send an email to account at Airbnb who haven't replied. It's particularly galling that Airbnb doesn't test this stuff because traveling is pretty much the whole point of the site. So they can't even claim that there's no money in servicing people with poor connections. True. Akamai reports are skewed because their network is absolute garbage. What do you mean their network? Like their network speeds, or like, what do you mean by that? What about tail latency? My original plan for this post was to show 50 percentile, 90 percentile, 99 percentile, etc. tail load times, but the 50 percentile results are so bad that I don't know if there's any point showing the other results. If you were to look at the 90 percentile results, you'd see that most pages fail to load on dial-up, and the bad and connections are hopeless for almost all sites. HTTP versus HTTPS. Pretty negligible up front, but pretty bad down the line. You can see that for a very small site that doesn't load many blocking resources, HTTPS is noticeably slower than HTTP, especially on slow connections. Practically speaking, this doesn't matter today because virtually no sites are that small, but if you design a website as if people with slow connections actually matter, this is noticeable. Yeah. How to make web pages usable on slow connections. The long version is, to really understand what's going on, consider reading High Performance Browser Networking, a great book on web performance that's available for free. Hang on. Short version is most sites are so poorly optimized that someone who has no idea what they're doing can get a 10x improvement in page load times for a site whose job is to serve up text with occasional images. When I started this blog in 2013, I used Octopress because it was the most used. A plain blog post with 2 images took 11 seconds to load on cable because the Octopress defaults included multiple useless JavaScript files in the header for never used by me things like embedding Flash videos and delicious integration. Hey, Kaden on YouTube, which blocked page rendering. Just moving those JavaScript includes to the footer halved page load time, making a few other tweaks decrease page load time by another order of magnitude. I see, yeah. It's easy to blame page authors because there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. There's just as much low-hanging fruit in the browser. Why does my browser open up 6 TCP connections to try to download 6 images at once when I'm on a slow satellite connection? That just guarantees that all 6 images will time out. Right. Right. This is a software issue, the bad software. Guarantees that all, yeah, even if I tweak the timeout, servers that are configured to protect against DOS attacks won't allow long-lived connections that aren't doing anything. I can sometimes get some images to load by refreshing the page and waiting 10 minutes, but why should the browser handle retry? Why shouldn't the browser handle retries? There are lots of optimizations the browsers could do for people on slow connections, but because they don't, the best current solution for users appears to be use W3M when you can, then switch to a browser with ad blocking when that doesn't work. Their network speeds, their everything is trash. We use them last 8 years and they're so bad. They added H2 and our sites got slower because H2 is supposed to enable concurrent responses, but they actually became waterfall. It took more than 2 years to fix it after we proved it to them. Absolute trash of a CDN. Sure, Sergeant, but that doesn't negate the fact that on a trash connection like theirs, they it shouldn't be as slow as it is, right? Like they shouldn't be able to produce reports on their trash connections that indicate that things are slow as they are. You know what I mean? Okay. Conclusion. When I was at Google, someone told me a story about a time that they completed a big optimization push only to find that measured page load times increased. When they dug into the data, they found that the reason load times had increased was that they got a lot more traffic from Africa after doing the optimizations. Right. Right. So this is like actually it seems like such a small 2 sentences, but it's actually huge. Think about what percentage of the population that you're keeping away because people can't load the site. The team's product went from being unusable for people with slow connections to usable, which caused so many users with slow connections to start using the product that load times annually increased. See? It was an upfront cost for a long-term gain. Yeah, that's fair, Sergeant. Yeah, I mean, Akamai triggers me because of how bad they are, which is why they're bleeding clients. No, that's fair. That's fair. I get what you're saying. Last night at a presentation on the WebSockets protocol, Gary Bernhardt made the observation that the people who designed the WebSockets protocol did things like using a variable length field for frame length to save a few bytes. By contrast, if you look at the Alexa top 100 sites, almost all of them have a huge amount of slop in them. It's plausible that the total bandwidth used for those 100 sites is probably greater than the total bandwidth for all WebSockets connections combined. Despite that, if we just look at the 3 top 35 sites tested in this post, 2 send uncompressed JavaScript over the wire, 2 redirect the bare domain to the triple dub subdomain, and 2 send a lot of extraneous information by not compressing images as much as they could be compressed without sacrificing quality. If you look at Twitter, which isn't in our table but was mentioned above, they actually do an anti-optimization where if you upload a ping, which isn't even particularly well optimized, they'll re-encode it as a JPEG, which is larger and has visible artifacts. Use bcrypt has become the mantra for a reasonable default if you're not sure what to do when storing passwords. The web would be a nicer place if we use web page test caught on in the same way. It's not always the best tool for the job, but it sure beats the current defaults. And then he describes caveats to the testing. The above tests were done repeatedly loading pages via private web page test image in AWS West 2 on C4X large VM. So he virtualized it. Yeah, he virtualized it. Irony, the main table in this post is almost 50 KB of HTML without compression or minification. That's larger than everything else in this post combined. That table is curiously large because I used the library pandas to generate the table instead of just writing a script to do it by hand. And as we know, the default settings for most libraries generate a massive amount of bloat. It didn't even save time because every single built-in time-saving feature that I wanted to use was buggy, yeah, which forced me to write all the heat map gradient styling code myself anyway. Due to laziness, I left the pandas table generating scaffolding code. See, resulting in a table that looks like it's roughly an order of magnitude larger than it needs to be. This is real life. This isn't criticism of pandas. Pandas is probably quite good. It's just not designed to produce slim websites. The CSS class names are huge, which is reasonable if you want to avoid accidental name collisions for generated CSS. Almost every TD, TH, and TR element is tagged with a redundant row span call span, which is reasonable for generated code if you don't care about size. Each cell has its own CSS class, even though many cells share styling with other cells. Again, this probably simplified things in the code generation. Every piece of bloat is totally reasonable. See, every piece of bloat is totally reasonable. Every time that you say, see, this is bloat, and you look at it in a vacuum, yeah, but this makes sense, right? Unfortunately, there's no tool that I know of that will take a bloated table, turn it into a slim table. A pure HTML minifier can't change the class names because it doesn't know some external CSS or JS. It doesn't depend on the class name. An HTML minifier could theoretically determine that different cells have the same styling and merge them, except for the aforementioned problem with potential but non-existent external dependencies. But that's beyond the capability of all tools I know. For another level of ironic, consider that while I think of a 50 KB table as bloat, this page is 12 KB when gzipped, even with all of that bloat. Google's AMP currently has over 100 KB of blocking JavaScript that has to load before the page loads. There's no reason for me to use AMP pages because AMP is slower than my current setup of pure HTML with a few lines of embedded CSS and an occasional image. But as a result, I'm penalized by Google relative to AMP pages for not accelerating or deaccelerating my page with AMP. Let's go. Let's go. I'll give you a counter argument, which will be probably distasteful, but competing and catering to geographical areas that are still on dial-up level internet is a waste of time anyway. Assuming you're a business and you're selling something anyway, those people aren't going to buy your thing anyway. That's fine, Arvis, and I could agree with your argument, but at the very least, what you're doing is you're leaving that door open and you're demonstrating that if those people could get the access to it, then everyone else upwards can also get that access, and there's no barrier, right? Like you're removing barriers to entry. And what you have to remember too is that money money isn't always translated by number of purchases on your website. Sometimes you can receive money simply by the amount of traffic on your website. I have seen some businesses get sold when they have few sales through the sales funnel, but they have such activity, such a buzz around everything else going on their website, which is not conversion rates, it's just activity rates, that it makes it worth it because potential investors see the value in lots of people who could potentially be turned into customers. Or downstream effects of a buzzing website with lots of activity where you can relate to you can relate activity into, you can turn it into sales through other mechanisms, right? But when you just exclude that ability entirely, you don't even have that option. It's a non-starter. Yeah, it's getting into the meta narrative of how this is all made up BS that we deal with, right? I mean, yes, but yeah. Anyway, this was a good article. I'm gonna put it on my list. Um, man, delicious. So let me take the link from this. Our company is mostly revenue from traffic. It's actually kind of scary because we're actually pretty affected by Google updates. Right. How many times has a Google algorithm update taken down a website? And it's what would you call it? It's ability to make money. And not just that, but think about how many times Google has taken down a YouTube channel, for example. It's just gone. Algorithm updates, YouTube channel is just dead. Revenue from traffic just says to me I don't have an actual product, but that's a different conversation. The product is sometimes the traffic, yes. Right. We don't have actual products, we have media sites, right? If you're creating content for that's like what would you call it? Like media, like you're creating news articles. And you don't want to charge for news articles. You just don't think news should be charged for. People shouldn't have to pay for news. And maybe for like opinion pieces from their favorite authors or something. But generally speaking, you want to just produce news. The only way that you're going to be able to prove that you have something that is a product of sorts, that is your product, is through the traffic. Do you have good news? Show me the traffic. Need to fact. What are you sending here? Live strong. Okay, yeah. So this site, right? This is the site Sargent is talking about. So this one necessarily does not really have a product. It's articles. Right? So you would have to show that it's worthwhile through traffic. Hey, we have content that's worth it because look at our traffic. Now, out of curiosity, there are 23 JavaScript errors. Oh, blocked by ad block. Okay. Oh. Oof. Slow 3G. Look. No. No. It's trash view. This is one of the ones that had 20 to 40 WCV scores, still has 99 on next. No. It's been a full minute and it ain't done. this is slow 3G. There is no reason why I'm sorry, but there is no reason why slow 3G should take 1.1 minutes to load this. That's bonkers. No throttle. No throttle, refresh. I'm bored. I think I'm going to puke. No throttles. And it still takes 9 seconds. Oh, it'll never be done downloading. All that loading is ads. That's how it makes money. We're back. Made it. We're back to dial up. I don't like the lines. Yeah. This is terrible. Fast 3G. Oh man. Oh, Sergeant, you shouldn't have brought this to our attention, Sergeant. Now you have to do that backwards Homer step into the bushes. Spam F5. I bet you it'll just give up. Yeah, okay. If you have 10 ad platforms, then it will happen. True, Adreno. I mean, you have points. Okay, we all know it's trash. Yeah, that's why it's getting replatformed. I can 1v1 you with my 10k points. This is like this is normal, right? That's the problem, is that these things are normal. This is a normal way for websites to operate like this, and it's terrible. This one's pretty old. I don't know if we can actually use this one. Okay, let's see what else I have. It didn't die. No, it didn't die. This one is a really good one. I've already talked about this one. But look, Travis mentioned Google Inbox, a web app written by Google, running in Chrome browser, also by Google, takes 13 seconds to load. Takes 13 seconds to open moderately sized emails. It also animates empty white boxes instead of showing their content, because it's the only way anything can be animated on a web page with decent performance. No, decent doesn't mean 60 FPS. It's rather as fast as this web page could possibly go. I'm dying to see the web community answer when 120 Hz displays become mainstream. It barely hits 60 Hz already. This is a good one. Windows 10 takes 30 minutes to update. That depends though. But true. Modern text editors have higher latency than 42-year-old Emacs. Text editors. A 3D game can fill the whole screen with hundreds of thousands of polygons in the same 16 ms and also process input, recalculate the world, and dynamically load-unload resources. How come? As a general trend, we're not getting faster software with more features. We're getting faster hardware that runs slower software with the same features. Everything works way below the possible speed. Ever wonder why your phone needs 30 to 60 seconds to boot? Why can't it boot, say, in 1 second? True, there are no physical limitations to that. I would love to see that. I would love to see limits reached and explored, utilizing every last bit of performance we can get for something meaningful in a meaningful way. An Android system with no apps takes almost 6 gigs. Windows 95 was 30 MB. We have web pages heavier than that. This is a good article. I it's been a while since I've read it, but it actually it's good. Google's keyboard app routinely eats 150 megabytes. It's an app that draws 30 keys on a screen, 5 times more complex than the whole Windows 95. Hey, Car, how's it going? A 16 gig Android phone was perfectly fine 3 years ago. Today, with Android 8.1, it's rarely usable. Because each app has become at least twice as big for no apparent reason. There are no additional features. They are not faster or more optimized. They don't look different. They just grow. I mean, why doesn't my phone boot in 1 second? Linux in general has never booted for me 1 second on bare metal. Like, what are we talking about, really? Why can't it? But see, this is the thing, Arvis, is why can't it? Why couldn't it? Why couldn't it load in 1 second? What's preventing that? That's a question for Mr. Torvalds. Yeah. Remove everything, compile a web browser in Linux. Sure. Anyway, this one's a good one. I'm gonna um because personal quantum computing isn't mainstream yet. But still, I guess another way to argue this would be like um could things load faster than they do now, I suppose. Because personally, yeah, just saying it's a bit weak and ranty. It's not that I disagree. It's just that some of those examples are, well, that depends, like you said before. It can depend, yes. A story in Hacker News argued that web page speeds haven't improved even as internet speeds have gone up. There's Car. Well, thanks. Spent the day looking into htmx and Zig after not hearing about them. Came at a good time as I was previously about to go balls deep into learning React and C. I mean, C isn't terrible. C's good, but Zig is probably a nicer intro to C. Oh, this is from HTTP Archive, so I bet you, yeah, okay, so it's like a meta. Mobile network bandwidth in the US. This chart shows average mobile bandwidth in the US by year according to different sources. It increased from 1 to 30. Network latency. Latency dropped from 200 in 2011 to 50 in 2020. That's actually pretty good. Sergeant, as a web dev, it's kind of embarrassing to think that 3D game devs are rendering millions of polygons and shaders for awesome games, and we can't render a few divs on screen without bottlenecking the network and making laptop fans go nuts. Right. Right. It's true. It's true. Game dev stuff is a lot harder. I think Laugh was telling me yesterday that something to think about as like content is helping people to appreciate the things that they have. And I think Laugh literally said that I could do a comparison of the DOM model and what the DOM model gives you in terms of rendering versus what people have to do in game dev and how much harder it is, and that you should appreciate how far it's come along. Honestly, the game dev stuff that's hard is the game stuff. And yeah. Hey ABS, how's it going? Building a UI framework, getting that on screen performantly is sure. Yeah. Page weight, mobile page weight increased by 337%. Laptop fan go burr, right. Look at that mobile page weight. That's 337% increase. That's huge. How are you doing, ABS, by the way? Answering whether the web has become slower. Has the web become slower? It depends on what your device, network connection, and most used websites are. We need to weigh real world performance data to get a distribution that shows how different users experience the web over time. Yeah. And should the experience of someone opening thousands of pages a day count as someone who only visits Facebook once a week? No, that's not really a good metric, though. Oh, look what they did. Arvis mentioned. No, who was it? Not Arvis. Who was it that recommended this? Shreyas, maybe? I can't remember. I tried downloading old page versions from archive.org, testing them with Lighthouse, but wasn't able to get meaningful results in the time that I had available. For example, often some images are missing from, yeah. Okay, thank you. Holy crap. Thank you for the subscription, man. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. I'll just make IE minus. You go for it, Arvis. Be the change I wish to see. Remove JavaScript from the browser. That's how you do it, Arvis. Team up with Travis. Thank you, okay. I don't know what I did to deserve that, but thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. The big limitation of Crux data has only been collected from 2017, but we can still use it to see if the web has become slower. Note that unlike HTTP archive, Crux looks at the whole domain instead of just home pages. The data we'll look at is the 75th percentile, meaning pages load at least this fast for 75% of users, taking the average across websites rather than the median, which is not great. Okay. Page load times. Crux data for the US does not show page performance getting worse. On-load metric shows a slight improvement, maybe due to an increase in bandwidth, or maybe more activity is now happening after the initial page load. But not by a lot, right? Not really by a lot. I don't think you could take this and make the case that it's getting better. Pretty sure between Travis and myself, we can solve this problem in 3 seconds. Less time than it takes for Sgt. Pepper's website to load. The downward trend in the US metric is matched by the global data. There are significant differences in page load times across countries, with on-load times in India being almost twice as those in Korea. Yeah, but not by a lot. We can still use it that reduce latency and increase bandwidth have helped make websites load faster. Okay. Yeah, CPU improvements. Websites today run more code and are multiple times larger than websites 10 years ago. Still, I don't think the mobile web, as experienced by users, has become slower overall. Okay, this is the thing. I don't think these stats, though, show that there's been like a massive increase in speed, though, right? So if you only have a little bit of increase in performance, I think it's way too easy to make the case that it's because of internet speeds and hardware, not the code that's being written behind them. And so I still think the argument could hold true that given the same code, it's actually slower. Bro, you always have interesting things to say and work on. Definitely deserved. I don't get to catch the stream often enough. Okay, I really appreciate it. I'm trying. It's not always easy. You know, I'm trying to do something different here, you know, and not do what everyone else tends to do in this space, and actually like try and help people, including doing boring stuff like reading research about whether software is slower or not. Like, this is so mind-numbingly boring, but I can't I gotta, you know. But anyways, I appreciate it. Okay, I really do. It's not my website. I didn't have influence on the front end when that was made, in my defense. Sure, Sergeant. Sure. Sure, Sergeant. And then you want to have full influence. So you can roast me if the new one launches and it's trash. Oh, don't worry, Sergeant. Oh, don't worry. I'm going to be you know how well I roast code. I am the master code roaster. I kind of like that. The master code I am the master code roaster. And I will roast your piece of trash so much that your grandchildren are going to feel it. They're going to come out the womb crying, not because they're gasping for air, but because I hurt you so much by trashing your piece of crap website. And they're, technically speaking, they're my great grandkids because I'm your dad. Okay, so I would say this article in particular doesn't have a strong case for a dramatic enough increase in performance and speeds to shut me up. It's a minor performance that I can say, well, this is just hardware and internet speeds. But it's still a good one. It's trying to do something different today and just not bag on all our mom. No, I'm going for the grandkids now. Don't clip me. I'm gonna wait for the ads to be. I wish I could turn off ads. Honestly, if I could turn off ads on Twitch, I really would. Okay, this great. Sorry, I was just waiting for. Okay, this is a good one. Waiting for the ads to. Okay. I remember why I brought this one. I didn't read it all, but I remember why. So the reason why I brought this up, or why I pulled this one up, is because this is 2023, and whoever did this, I guess there's no real author, it's just the company. They took the images on the world's top 100 websites and they compressed them. And I think this shows how much room there is to make things more performant and faster. And especially when it comes to websites having the website wait, and also loading times and processing times and all of that stuff, right? So the total weight of visual content across all 100 websites is 228 megabytes. Thanks, board. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it, man. See you soon. The website with the largest number of images, 397, is Rakuten. That actually does not surprise me. The website with the heaviest visual content, 11 megabytes, is Sina. Doesn't surprise me either. The top 5 heaviest images were served on Sina, Reddit, IMDb, Office, and BBC. So this is what happens when you optimize the images on the top 100 websites. 5 images, 11% savings. YouTube, 54 images, 8%. Tmail, almost 50%. QQ, I know that one, almost 50%. Baidu, almost 50%. Almost 60%, sorry. Facebook, 50%. Sohu, I don't know what that is. 34%. That's crazy. Yahoo, 20, almost 20. Holy cow. Zoom, 60%. Reddit, 55. Like, some of these sizes are insane. LinkedIn, almost 60. Some of them are pretty small, which is probably a good sign. Like Sogu, I mean, 20 kilobytes, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. But the ones that you would think are that should be like a tippity top of performance and sizes are not. Spotify, 60. Why Spotify? It has 4 images and it's 5 KB. Some of these websites I don't even know. crap. Office 365, 70%. 11 images, 1.65 megabytes, and you could compress that down for a 70% saving. That's huge. I think this is actually a good indicator for how websites have become like more bloated. And fine, it's localized to images, but it's clear that there's lots of room for improvement, and it's not being done. Okay, this one, it's an indicator. It's an indicator. Have any others? I might have one or two others. No. Okay, yeah, that one. Click. Here's this. Bring this one over. Okay. This is an actual study. Loading speed of modern websites and reliability of online speed test services. Okay. Yeah, introduction, state of the art. There are many terms. Yeah, so they just describe what they mean. Cause of slow loading of websites. It is well researched that loading speed of the website has a significant influence on a user. What things can cause it? Sometimes a website loads slowly, uselessly. What? Simply because it is not optimized. Sometimes lower speed is an intentional payment for better UX. Size of images. We just went over that. Responsive web design. Marcotte wrote that we're designing for more devices, more input types, more resolutions than ever before. He answered this challenge with responsive design. Responsive website can display web content differently according to the particular device, its screen size, and capabilities on which it is being reviewed. Resizing a desktop image to fit a mobile's device screen, however, implies downloading an image that's been suited for a desktop environment, which is an unnecessarily large file. Many web designers tend to use the simplest method available. Common way of dealing with this issue is hiding too large images and other content for smaller displays. It does not solve the problem with downloading too much data when it is not needed. The image will not be displayed, but they will still be downloading, causing delay in page load speed. And if you use CSS media queries to replace the background image with a mobile version, in some cases it would download both images. Another common way of dealing with images is shrinking. As responsive web design uses fluid images to match the different screen sizes, desktop-grade image is downloaded every time, even when loaded on a much smaller screen. Okay, this is actually a pretty good argument, and I would actually go one step further. Not only does a poor, not well thought out responsive design lead to actually just downloading more stuff, but get this. You actually have to generate more code to accommodate more devices and resolutions, which logically entails the necessity of having to download more stuff to accommodate this. So on the one hand, you can say hardware is getting better. You have phones. You don't need desktops all the time now, etc., etc. On the other hand, you can say that the schisms caused by the variety of hardware leads to generating more code to accommodate all this new hardware. Does one cancel the other out? I'm not sure. Is one worse than the other? I'm not sure, but it is a factor. Actually, more images or more code. Just taking some notes. JavaScript. According to Barker, JavaScript is potentially the largest area for improvement when trying to address the total performance. Websites relying heavily on JavaScript, especially those with Ajax, can experience performance issues. Soldiers tested the Alexa top 100 URLs with and without JavaScript and demonstrated improvement of an average performance of 31% when removing JavaScript from a website. Holy crap. Of course, the solution to faster loading speeds is not removing JavaScript completely. Web designers should rather learn to use it more efficiently. The entire premise of what I'm trying to get to. A motivation to learn programming properly is, however, a big problem these days. Holy crap, this study was meant for me! Because of the limitless resources available on the internet, one does not have to learn a lot to create a plausibly functional website. This trend can be simply confirmed by looking at a question and answer site for professional enthusiast programmers called Stack Overflow. Often the questions are so basic with respect to the relevant field of knowledge that it is apparent that people who ask them are lacking of fundamental knowledge. Is this just an academic study to take a dump all over programmers? Yet they're trying to create a website. Some of them are even trying to do it for business. Damn, that's good. Another issue of JavaScript, apart from bad programming techniques, is its overuse. Academic paste. Hey, Quad, how are you doing, man? Inexperienced developers often download whole JavaScript libraries in order to add functionality, which could be accomplished in cleaner and more efficient ways. Sometimes they do not need the libraries. They just incorporate them into the website as part of a useful package of functions because it is simple. The same goes for front-end frameworks such as Bootstrap or Foundation, which offer a collection of code, styles, and functions. Damn! Now we're talking. That's what you said yesterday. That's right, Laugh. And this is a legit study. Recommendations. Many of the discussed performance issues can be solved. However, we need to distinguish between an ignorance or inactivity regarding online performance and design intent with calculated balance between website attractiveness and performance. On the other hand, in this section, we summarize and propose some of the general available solutions: size of images, responsive web design, JavaScript, speed tests. So then they go into how they did their speed tests, what they used, the settings, locations, caveats in terms of reliability, performed speed tests, and there they do. Yep, there we go. So an actual academic study with loading speed. Yeah, this is great. Our results indicate that the choice of browser and location affects significantly testing of website loading speed. This turns out to be a very serious issue in the case of comparing test results, which we however need in most cases. Either we compare between our website and competitive sites, or we compare previous versions of our site with the current one. The lengthy and costly process of redesigning a website is often based on these results, so it's important they're very reliable. Okay. I wonder if there are references here that would be useful, but this is a good one. Car, my diploma course mentioned none of this. Was just get all of Bootstrap. Right, Car, right? Right. And when you enter the business world, businesses also focus on the same thing. They sit you down and they go, hey, we need this thing to work. Performance isn't usually called out as a thing that it needs to work. And even if it is, if you go to like a manager or an executive and say, well, you get one of two choices. You can either have this thing now, but the performance sucks, but it works, it's functional. Or you can have this thing later, but it's not functional, but the performance will be great later. Most executives and managers will go, I want it now. Application and testing of the conceptual spirit on technique to website design. Yeah, this is good. I really think, could you share the link to the study, please? Yeah, sure. This is a great study. because I think it actually goes to it's something that's academic that goes towards what I'm trying to get to here. So I could point to this. Here, let me close that one. When was this? Let me When was this study done? On five. Software bloat and web server. They're not a. Yeah, there's no man. Okay, I don't know how old this is, so I don't know how well this is gonna work. During the past 2 decades, software designs, okay, or PC, SOAP-based services. Okay, they're using the word SOAP and RPC. I'm kind of thinking it's an older study. Performance problems in a large application arise not from the lack of sufficiently fast hardware, but instead from the runtime bloat from which it suffers. The term bloat often refers to a general situation where redundancy exists towards initiating a task, which would have been achieved more efficiently. There's a lot of typos. The memory bloat that refers to space inefficiencies and execution bloat that occurs due to the execution of unnecessary operations. With this definition, we're focusing on calculating bloat under the following 3 categories: runtime bloat, which is memory and execution bloat, and then code bloat. So execution bloat is CPU memory. And they have like mathematical formulas for how they would engage that in websites. Code bloat is, okay, memory bloat is obviously how much memory it takes. And then code bloat would be the code required to run it. Intel i5, 8 gigs of RAM. So it can't be like too old. It must be like probably the last 10 years. With JMeter, probably the last 10 years. CPU load for RPC was monitored using JProfiler. Okay, average CPU for RPC. So what exactly are they testing here? The test was carried against SOAP and RPC services to identify and compare the bloat excreted in each case. The bloat was calculated in terms of time and calculated the number of CPU cycles. And then the dissipated energy was derived considering energy dissipated per each CPU cycle. So did they just connect to like some random servers to see like what the heck was going on? Were they running? Maybe they were running against a local server. That's probably what they were doing. XML serialization and deserialization created an overhead added by SOAP processing. Ubuntu 12 was 2012? Okay, so a little over 10 years then. Thanks, Laugh. So at least that old, yeah. Or that's the max, maybe. Hey, Sylvan. I'll read your message in a sec, Sylvan. Appreciate it, man. Good to see you. I don't know. This one doesn't feel as strong. It's a bit old, I guess, and it doesn't really. I mean, it might have some. It might. Okay, you know what? Actually, this one might not be so bad because what it can demonstrate is that even in 2012, there were issues that I don't know have been solved. I'm gonna keep this one. Okay, I agree React should not be needed, but I do think it's going in a much better direction lately. And also, you don't have to use everything in React. You can keep it relatively small. I'll respond to that in a sec, Sylvan. I mean, the lower level causes have not changed much since then. RAM fetch is still slow AF. Yeah, right. There are still issues with hardware. So even with increases in hardware, there are still fundamental issues that haven't been solved in hardware. So it's difficult to actually even make the case that software has become better and therefore everything else has become better. Not exactly, not necessarily. So Sylvan, I'm going to push back on you a bit respectfully. I don't think React is going in a much better direction lately. I think their push towards the server is a bad move. JavaScript was never meant and intended to run on the server. JavaScript being manipulated to run on server, like with Node and stuff, it was a way to cater to people who didn't know anything beyond JavaScript so that businesses could benefit from JavaScript developers and quickly get something out. So I think this kind of push, especially with React Server Components, which is a this year React thing, I think it's twisting something to becoming what it's not. It's like they're trying to change objective reality, and I just don't think it's a good move. So I would respectfully disagree that it's going in a better direction. You don't have to use it for everything. I do agree. And I'll even say that there are circumstances where React might actually make sense for what you're doing. I'm perfectly happy to say that, because I think it's true. There are some cases where, like, yeah, I can see why you would choose React for a particular use case, especially if something is extremely client driven and very complicated and so on. It's like, okay, like I kind of get it. But I think my point is, like, the point that we're trying to get to here is that it's not necessary. It's actually something that doesn't actually need to exist. That's the fundamental principle here. And the fact that it exists is an indication that we have failed the industry and developers. And instead of encouraging the industry and developers to do more with what we have, we're giving them easy outs like React, and we're not considering the consequences of what comes with these things. 100% agree. I use it for yeah, fair, Sylvan. I like hooks, context, recoil, and compiler is coming too. If I need server, I use laravel. I can show you some code if you want to roast me. Sure, why not? Why not? Let's throw some code from some. Let's take a break from this. Some Sylvan code. Let's see. Island survival game demo built in Vite, React, Recoil, D3, D3 Hexbin. D3 is what? It's a charting library, isn't it, Sylvan? Is that right? D3 Hexbin with basic SVG stuff? Okay. Created with Node 20. You're in Create Vite. Shows React, TypeScript, and SWC. What's SWC? Edit TS config and okay. Add credits, cozy pack. There's ESLint. Look at how many tools. Look at how many new thing for replacing Babel. Oh, perfect, because that's what we need. We need a brand new tool to replace Babel. We're off to a great start. So in order for this single page app to work, we're already having to use like 7,000 tools already for this thing to work. If I load this up, I swear, before everything holy and sacred, Sylvan, if I load this up, and it is the simplest little survival game on the planet, and you had to use all these tools to get it there, There will be no end to the roasting. I will print this out and frame it behind me as the epitome, the single bullet killer thing to anybody who claims that these are good ways to do this. It's okay, I agree with you. You want to make it better? All right, let's see. Let's see what all these tools, TypeScript, SCSS, JavaScript, HTML, they're just tools, not my identity. Sylvan, that is the right attitude. Note, real talk, putting aside my roasting you, like not joking, that is the right attitude to have. It is not your identity. That's exactly right. Okay, back to your piece of trash coder. Okay, because you're a piece of trash coder. Let's try this. This is it. This is it, folks. This is what like 12 to 15 tools gets you. This. What it hit the gear wheel? Zoom, plus, minus, or mouse wheel. Movement. Q, E. A, D, Y. These weird. You couldn't even get. You had to pick these weird key mappings? Why would you do this? Enable context menu? What is that? I don't know what that is. Sure. Reset game data. All right. What? It's not even doing anything. Oh, it is. Okay. That's fair. Zoom it. Oh, look at. Yeah. Low tile size is slower to update. Oh, look at. It's actually going. My fan just kicked in, boys. My fan just kicked in. What it home and. That's it. Where am I? Where'd I go? Here. Oh, beautiful. 20 JavaScript front end tools for this. Right click to move to. I mean, that's great. So what? Disable context menu? Is that what? Oh, I see. Let's go. No? Are you too stuck? Yeah, you're too stuck. Oh, look at how slow it's going. Okay, now out of curiosity. Not allowed on mountain or water. Fair. That's fair. Performance. Let's see. Let's see what the performance looks like. Scripting. Holy cow. Scripting takes that much? It's not even rendering, it's the scripting. That's what's eating up. That's what makes the tile. What? Animation frame, run micro tasks, animation frame, run. Holy crap. 15 tools for this. Behold the glory of the web. I know, so make it better, lol. I know you're taking it. I know you're taking this in good spirits, Sylvan. I appreciate it. Just fun to make fun of, you know. I would expect no less if you were to make fun of my stuff, which my stuff is not that great either. But this is not good, yo. So let's go back to the code for a second. You've got yarn, v, TypeScript, an index file, git, ESLint, SCSS. You've got a public folder which is probably just stuff. Pretty straightforward. I'm trying Phaser too, but SVG is actually really good. Yeah, SVG is actually good. I would agree with you, Sylvan. Yeah. Is it all reaction based, or are you using event? Master is asking you, Sylvan, there. Index.tsx. Recoil based and use effects. Here's a style. Here's our CSS, our SCSS. But there's so little in here. What do you actually need SCSS for? You don't really need it. You have such little CSS code, honestly. Look at it. It's really not a lot. You do not need to compile this CSS. To style the SVG, I guess because this is the problem, right? Is that you depend on a library for SVG. Then you have to depend on the external libraries to compile that SVG, because the main library that compiles the SVG is required. I bet if you remove the frameworks, this thing would be blazing. I bet you it would. You've got state, and then you've got Lodash, which, by the way, does not require any TypeScript if you just import the Lodash library by itself, which, by the way, you don't really need, considering how many of the things you've imported from Lodash to begin with. You've got your roots. See, I don't understand how this is. I know they're helpers, and they're helpers because they're things that you actually use, right? So if you think about how many helpers you have for Lodash, you actually don't need to be applying TypeScript or whatever over top of them. You could just import Lodash, or you could just import the individual pieces of Lodash, and then you don't need Lodash at all. Like, if you strip away the things you actually need very little to make this thing work. And I don't understand how this is better than like a regular DOM HTML element. I don't understand why this is better in React. Okay. There's really not a lot going on here if you look at it. Font awesome, SVGs. This is route-based code split setup as a split setup as a shell site. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Yeah, I see. I get it. It's each root is going to have its own structure, and if you're going to actually do a single page app, I do understand. But what I don't understand is why you can't use the existing DOM, and why you have to generate. I'm not formulating this question very well, honestly, but it's like, you don't need roots for this. This is a game. I didn't use jQuery, at least, yeah. This is a game, right? So you don't need to use roots to get you from point A to point B. What you can do is you can use states in the game. So depending on where your state is in the game, then you would manipulate the DOM structure. So you still have a single page. It's still a single page, and you have everything you need in your DOM structure, and your game state would define the structure of your DOM. And it's the same thing. Why do you need React? Wouldn't a game only need one page? Yeah. React holds the state. But I don't see why that's necessary. Why can't you hold the game state in like a JavaScript object, or why not even hold the game state inside the DOM itself? DOM is in and of itself a state management system. Like, forms are a state. You submit, when you submit a form to a backend, like if you submit a form to a PHP server, you're submitting the state of that form to the PHP. Why do you need React to store the state for you? You have everything you need for states already without React. What's the point? Especially for a game. But there you actually don't have a lot of code in here, so it's kind of hard to roast the code because there's not a lot going on. Layout we covered, game. I don't think the app shell makes a big difference. I just like it. That's fair. Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's a fair response. Yeah. And then these are individual components. Once it runs, it's all D3. Right. Loading. Yeah. Honestly, it's hard to roast this. Only because there's not a lot going on here. There's not a lot going on. So I think that I guess I don't see this winning me over. I don't see it winning me over. But okay, so the effects file is the place to really roast it. All right. All right, let's see. Where's the being slow when zoomed out is strange because it's rendering more stuff at the same time. Okay. Game effects. Get map, draw map, get on key press, set zoom in, set zoom out, get tile height color. What? Wait, what? Get tile height color? You can fix it by removing points when it's larger. Right. Get tile colors. Okay. Use game effect. Get the grid size. Document get element by ID grid. If there's some low dash, that fix the tile color based on and height map. I don't know what it does, laugh. I don't know what it does. You return an empty array. You return an empty array. If you can't get an element, return an empty array. Okay. Width and height, get bounding client rect. Get wrecked. Math seal, yeah, width and height. All right. Draw map effect is an async function. You set loading, you draw the map, and then you set loading false. Get wrecked. Input key press effect. On key press, get on key press. This, to me, this right here is the weirdest crap ever. What on earth is going on here? How can you tell me that Reactland is better for wrapping a function in a function in a function in order to add an event listener for a function and then remove that event listener on a function? How can you tell me that Vanilla.js is worse than this? Go ahead and cope for me. Go ahead. Give me all the cope. All the cope. Go ahead and cope. This is ridiculous. While loop with the switch. Hey, range bomber, what do you mean by enlightened? I mean this range bomber. Also high range. Let me make sure I got the... I gotta check the... Gotta check the right link. I'll show you. I'll get you the link, Rain. It'd be there. I wanted to call it in... Yes. Init mouse wheel effect. Here, okay. Here you go. He's been meditating in cyberspace for 20 years. Yeah. fonts, or maybe it's your stream recorder. Fonts are weird. Are fonts looking weird for anyone else? Because I've never got that complaint before. You return empty. Zoom in a little here. How about that? Init game. Oops. I thought it was just you. Well, there you go. Okay, so you return empty. If game is running, the center is map length divided by 2. You set a player, you set a camera. Timeout to make sure camera has time to be set before setting the game to running. You do a timeout, you set the game to... Do you literally have to do a timeout to set the game? Wait, what? Wait, what? You have to time out to set the game to running? Wait. Wait. Why? Why is this? Or the minimap would sometimes not work? Why? Why? Help me understand. Help me understand. Because of use effects dependencies? Load order problem? Holy crap. I'm sorry. Use effect calls when the dependencies change. Okay, listen, Sylvan. Okay, real talk now. This is weird, right? This can't possibly feel good, right? Real code doesn't have that problem. Like non-roast. When you had to, no, I know it happens, but this is strange, and this is an artifact of, get out of here. This is an art, like this is because of the way that React works, right? Like this can't possibly feel good. So you have to set a timeout in order to set the game to be running true. That is so strange. Init grid size effect, event function. It's mainly to avoid a circular dependency. Right, because, and that is it's React specific. Right, it's React specific. It's because, it's so weird. On resize, debounce. Oh, I see. To set the grid size. Got it. So if you resize the window, you set the grid size. Got it. Load map effect, empty array, init game effect, follow current player, init grid size, game running. Draw map effect, map camera tile size current config, init key press effect, init wheel mouse effect. Oh my goodness. This here, all of these use effects is so strange to me that this is somehow an acceptable way to generate functions. This feels like escape hatch stuff for React in order to generate like events and set data. It's so weird. You do a mini map, you want to make sure you have a canvas, you update the canvas, you set the camera. If you don't have a canvas, you remove the click event listener. Okay, that's fine. You change the effect. Same basic thing, except now what you're doing is you're probably rendering. Yes. So now you're starting to render. That's right. And get tile height color would be the color based on, I guess, height of, create a smaller map by stepping over tiles. Whereas, oh, I see, where height is like the, height isn't really height of tile. Height is really just how far deep you are into the array, And depending on how deep you are into the array, you're going to get a different color. No, it's values in the CSV. Did I get that? It's height map. Okay, I got that wrong. Render the smaller map for each pixel. Colors. Okay, it's a height map. I get it now. Okay. And I see that, yeah, and I'll look at the CSV. I think I see what's going on here now. This is weird. This seems like black voodoo magic for CSS text. I don't understand this. I don't understand how this is a good thing. Real talk, why the double 2D loops? One, because I don't know. I don't know. Maybe because you want to like explicitly set the rows first so that you can deal with them appropriately later, but I guess it's not entirely necessary. If you had some clever code, you could deal with it. Right. You could do it in one, yeah. And there's some more use effects. So if you think about it this way, Arvis, it does cognitively separate out two different problem spaces. You run through it once and you separate out a problem, and then you go ahead and you run through it again and you deal with a different problem. So in terms of cognitive load, this might actually be a way to separate out problems that you then combine later on. Yeah, use effect, function, dependencies. Yes. This is so weird to me, all this stuff here. Now, if I go back and look at the can't remember where the CSV. Here, let me zoom out. Is it in public? Thank you. Public maps here. Yeah, okay. So it's yeah. But I'm pretty sure you're already looking at what you want to look at, so let's just do the thing while you're there. Yeah, no, I agree, Arvis. And I think Sylvan agrees too. I think what Sylvan is might have done there is just separate out the problem space to see what's going on, right? And then the plan was to merge it in after. Is there a game loop? No loop, just reacting to state change. Right. Yeah, okay. So I kind of see what you're trying to accomplish here. Honestly, it's really not the worst because, and I think part of the reason for that is you're not doing a heck of a lot here. So that's a good thing, but also kind of a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? But I think you've got the right attitude, and you know that it can be improved. Super nice to have you look at it. I really appreciate it. Oh, I don't what are you talking about, Sylvan? Thanks for letting me have a look. I mean, it's not like it's not always easy to have someone, kind of tell you where you might have gone wrong with the code or not agree with you, right? So, I do a lot of it in jest, but hopefully it was helpful. That's the goal. Was it at least helpful? I don't know if it was helpful, honestly. I don't know how much help I contributed to it. Except for saying like, hey, you could probably do this easier in a different way. Anyway. Okay. Thing is, I would take a better way, but to me, coming from Angular, this is so nice. Was Angular the first thing you learned? Curious. Like, what was your entry into? It was Backbone. Okay. Did you ever do any raw vanilla JavaScript? jQuery and Backbone. Fair. Any amount of raw vanilla JS? Question mark. curious. I wish it would do like the I wish the typing thing would show up, you know, like when someone's typing and it's got the, because otherwise you have to like, it's when when a response doesn't come in quickly, it's one of two things. Either Sylvan's like pieced out or he's typing something like long. So it's like I'm inserting the typing bubbles in on behalf of Sylvan right now. Not for anything serious. No, there was always jQuery or something. So Sylvan, if you had to if I had to make you write this, let's say I could make you. I had a magic button and I could make you write this in vanilla JavaScript. Would that be daunting to you in comparison to how you did it now? Or do you think you could accomplish it? You have D3? No. You have 0 libraries. You have vanilla JavaScript, vanilla CSS, vanilla HTML. No way. You couldn't do it? You don't think you could pull it off? What? Hang on. You don't think you could pull it off? What aspect would you say you couldn't pull off? Well, I would have to make all the SVG hexagons. Okay. Is that something that you think you could do or that you couldn't do? You could do it without React, not without D3. Why not without D3? And I want to be really clear here. I'm not picking on Sylvan. Sylvan, I'm not picking on you, okay? This isn't like a negative, let's trash talk Sylvan. I actually, you come from a different like background than me. So I'm trying to ask because I want insight. Like you're gonna have a different opinion and a different reason for why you think that. So that's what I just want to be clear that I'm not picking on you, okay? I'm not smart enough. My math is not that good. Okay, so Sylvan, how much math do you think you would need to figure out how to do an SVG hexagon? Freedom. Hey, how are you doing? The AI adds 20 to 40 IQ points. Try using ChatGPT to write all your code. That's what I do. Yeah. Literally, how the hell you make a hex grid? That's a statement. Hang on. So, okay, but wait. I want to be so Sylvan, is your concern that you would like create one like one SVG without any tools? Oh, no, okay, I follow. Dark sky full of stars. Man, first time chatters popping in. So your contention or your concern would be, I just want to be clear, it would be create a hexagon in SVG and then apply a map of hexagons over each other. Can you do it? I can show you something, Sylvan. Can we spoil the solution for Sylvan? Yeah. I mean, I'll stand by it. I'm telling the truth. Mostly ChatGPT alpha model, custom LLMs. But yeah, anyone can do it. Freedom's just like, yeah. What's the problem? You've got ChatGPT. Spoil it, Arvis. Go ahead and spoil it. Spoil the solution because this might actually help Sylvan out, like legitimately. This is the thing, is like Sylvan might be seeing this and going like, holy crap, how would I do this? Which is fair, which is absolutely fair. Again, I want to be really clear. I'm not picking on you, Sylvan, but I actually think you might underestimate. It looks daunting up front. Where you're gonna see Arvis is gonna go into it. I mean, I wrote this in Scala first, but with squares, right? Doing hexes isn't that different from squares. From squares. Yes, it's not. It's that I'm going to say it, and I'm going to use the word simply. It's simply that you have more sides. Every other row is offset by 0.5x. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah. Every language uses libraries. Wait. Does C use library? If you were going to write this in vanilla C, like C converts to 0 and 1. Why does JS have to be only JS? No, Sylvan, no. No, Sylvan, I'm not saying that it has to be only in JS. It's not an ought. Like everything must 100% of JS based code must be in vanilla JS. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, could you get away with vanilla JS, still accomplish what you need, and get much better performance? I would flip the question, Sylvan. Why do you need a library? I would flip the question. Why is it that you can't do it in vanilla JS and you do need a library? The part where hexes gets a little trickier is neighbors for gameplay stuff. True, yeah. The shape is really only a visual thing. How it's connected can be figured out through graphs if you need that specifically, but it's actually simpler overall than you'd probably think. How else can I have an about page? Damn it, Sylvan. Sylvan coaxed me into that one. He dangled the little carrot and he's like, yeah, but Spiro, why do I need to have vanilla JS? And I took that freaking bait and I'm like, no, but flip the question, Sylvan. And then he's like, yeah, but Spiro, how can I have an about page? Got him, boys. That's it. That's the end of my streaming career. Done. Streaming career over. Got him. You thought I had a tie on? No, it's part of my hoodie. If you know the reference, then you get an instant VIP. You know the reference, but it's a deep cut reference. Not a lot of people know it. Laughing Panda knows the reference. Pretty sure. Okay, well, Sylvan, I think what we're trying to, but seriously, you can host code split routes. It's pretty okay for us. It's not. Okay, I think what we're trying to tell you, Sylvan, is that when you have, I think you yourself have to admit that even though that this is fine for what you've done, and you probably did have a good developer experience, that it did obfuscate some implementations that we think you could have done. And it makes it seem like these are unapproachable topics. You yourself admitted that it feels unapproachable. How would I do the SVG with a hexagon and the math? But I would say that in part, the reason why you felt that way is because the libraries that you used hid the underlying mechanisms from you to the point where you couldn't approach the problem to begin with. And we're trying to say that I bet you could actually do this and that it's not as hard as you might think. But you wouldn't know that if you're using the library and the library does it for you. Does that kind of make sense? Basically, we all come to realize JavaScript sucks and we move on to better things. Like JavaScript, right? Freedom now has achieved the bell curve meme, yeah. I say it as D3 tools enabling me to do things I could not. How about this, Sylvan? How about D3 tools let you D3 tools let you do things that you couldn't do as fast? How about that? Because I don't think that you actually cannot do them. I just think that it's saving you time and processing power and research and all of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not actually, I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. I do think you could do it. It's just it's an easier path to get you to a place that would have taken you longer to get to. That you might have given up even, right? Maybe that's even a part of it. Where if you had to tackle the hexagonal math and everything, you might have given up and not even finished this. And so maybe that's what you mean, is you couldn't because you'd give up partway through because it's too complicated. Whereas the library saved you that time, which is a fair argument. But I think what we're trying to say is that it's actually not impossible. Somebody wrote D3, they figured it out. Why can't you? Is a lot better library than React. I mean, that I think that's actually fair too. Yes, because he's lazy. Dark Sky's calling you out. Dark Sky's calling you out. I'm a huge fan of don't waste time, and if you waste time, then you're lacking potential. Is automation lazy? Is working like 50 to 60 people as one person better or worse? I would argue it's worse. And I would argue that you can't actually prove that that automation actually makes somebody work 50 to 60 people as one. And I don't think you actually have proof that these libraries long term, like React, produce higher quality code and websites. I actually don't think you can prove that. These are big words coming from someone whose entire work output is ChatGPT. I think D3 does SVG as good as you can do it. Perhaps, Sylvan, you might actually be completely right, man. So why would I not use it? Sylvan, it's not okay, let me scale back a bit, right? Let's put it this way. It's not that you should not use it. It's that you should not block your C block yourself from exploring the way that D3 does on your own. This is the problem that I think developers get into, that I'm trying to encourage developers out of. Because a library does it for you, and maybe it does it optimally, that does not negate that doesn't mean that you don't have to go and try and figure it out for yourself. It's good learning. It makes you a better programmer. Does that mean that you must or must not use the library? Not necessarily. But libraries do make it easier for you to think that way, where you go, well, the library takes care of it for me. Why would I want to learn what this thing is? There's actually good reasons to go learn why that thing does what it does. Here's a far better example of using lib for itself. Sure, Arvis, yeah. Hexagon can be made with JavaScript pretty easily. Dark Sky, I would generally agree. For me, I'm on Sylvan's side here with library development. Are there downsides? Sure. Say we have a repo poisoning happen where they attacked it, so we have to check the libs for security. Angular objectively sucks. I think Freedom, what's happening, the way that Sylvan is describing his mindset using these libraries is exactly the downside. The library itself might not be the downside, but the existence of the library leads to the mindset that you don't need or want to go tackle complicated problems that you could otherwise tackle because it's solved for you. And I don't think that's the objective as developers. I don't think our objective should be, well, it's a solved problem, we don't need to learn that. You should understand what's going on with your tools, even if the library is the most optimal way to implement something. Because if it's not, and you have to go fix it, you won't know why or how to fix it. Why tackle the complicated problem that's already solved and you're not interested in it? Because it's really easy to make this argument localized to the SVG. It's a lot harder when you scale this up. We're talking about D3 as a single library, but if you look at the code, Sylvan did not use a single library, right? He used several like technologies together, several tools. And that's what happens. It's never just the one. In a vacuum, yes, Freedom, your argument holds true. but it's never just a vacuum of one. It's always a project that uses one library after another. And then you go, well, the library has solved all these other things, and there's going to be at least a few of them that you should probably know about, but you don't because you've used a bunch of libraries and you make the assumption that they're all going to handle it well for you. Another downside, arguably not to bash Sylvan, but he didn't dig deeper on a solution, and he said he wasn't smart enough to figure it out. Right, Arvis? Which I disagree. I think Sylvan is actually smart enough to figure it out. I think a lot of developers actually are. But the feelings that you get from using these libraries is, holy crap, I don't know what's going on here. And somebody spent a lot of time on this library. I'm not smart enough to figure it out. And I don't think that's a good thing. You can tackle other complex problems that interest you. You know, Freedom, you do, like, you're right. You are right. I think there's some overlap in our arguments and a little bit of a distinction. I was reading a lot of pages on how to draw hexagons, so maybe someday I'll get there. I think you can do it, Sylvan. I know a lot more than I did, and the crutches helped me. That's okay. That is the right attitude, Sylvan. I think you do have the right attitude right there. Don't hold back just because you use these libraries and they got you there. That's good, because you need to feel that sense of progression. You know, I completely understand that, but I think what we're trying to tell you is that you should dispel the idea that you couldn't do it, because I think what we're trying to say is that the libraries make you feel that way, but it's not real. You have to understand the deep concepts the lib uses. Also won't work for sure. It's going to break. At least to some degree, Freedom, right? And if I'm going to, hey, I'm Speedy. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Let me know how you're doing. If an argument against me would be, do you need to understand every deep concept? No, Freedom. You don't. That would go to your point. You don't need to understand every library and everything that's going on under the hood. That would be crazy. But I think people use libraries and then it gives them the feeling that they shouldn't. I agree. I think he could have if he didn't have a choice, which again, it's not a bash. It's just saying that beware when you're leaning on a crutch. Yeah, beware. Exactly. But I feel like I really enjoy delegation of time through library-based system, but I don't develop JavaScript stack, but mainly it's all PY and ML stuff for us. Same concepts. Right. So, okay. So to Freedom's point, there's definitely an aspect of, if I'm going to spend the next 7 years trying to build something that I know people have generally solved and built, I'm never going to get anywhere. I'm not going to do it. That is fair. I'm Speedy, doing well. This is a great convo. I appreciate it. I would encourage anyone to fork my code and do it better. I would love to see it. Sylvan, not just that, but I would encourage you to try and get out of your comfort zone. And things that you think you can't do, instead of assuming that you can't, assume that you can. Some of my projects, if I coded alone, would take 20 years. That's how much code is in the stack. Exactly, Freedom. So I think Freedom and Sylvan and Arvis and I and everyone, we actually agree more than we disagree. Yeah, just imagine encoding the entire OS. Yeah. Sometimes the hard part is just knowing what question to ask. Right. I think here's the fundamental thing that I'm trying to get across to Sylvan and to everyone on stream. Libraries tend to be crutches, and sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes that's a bad thing. And my concern with the tech industry in general is that developers see them as positive crutches more than they see it as negative crutches. These are great crutches to have. We should be using it all the time. Then they get overused. I don't see developers questioning whether they should actually be using them in as many cases as they do. That's like my bare bones starting point. And that's why before we were getting into this conversation, I literally had studies. I was doing studies because I'm trying to start a foundational argument that software and website quality has degraded over time. So that's why I was literally looking at studies, academic studies and research data to prove that foundational argument. Because from that can stem other arguments like what I just said, which is we should be depending less on these crutches because they have negative impacts, more so than we care to think right now. And there's not enough people, streamers, other programming streamers, influencers, whatever, whoever out there, companies that post their propaganda for their own frameworks or whatever. There's not enough people saying that. And we need to be saying that more, that these things have negative consequences more than we'd care to think. And that people like Sylvan don't have to feel like it's not these problems aren't approachable to them. They are absolutely approachable to you. It's a holy grail of hexagon pages. Yeah, that's a good one, Arvis. Anyway, that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. And to go to make this full circle all the way back to, can I prove that websites and software have become worse over the last few years? I can't prove it, but I think we have indicators of it. Marky 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Cheap viewers. Cheap viewers. What a great comment. Thank you, Arvis. Something about modern development. You have to be really good at understanding other people's code and fixing it. That's why I use LLM to scan the code. Understand the documentation, then output fixes, common errors, simulated adversary attack, you name it. Man, we have a real Chat Geppetto lover here, don't we? Freedom, just admit it. You have a Chat Geppetto pillow, okay? It's a pillow cover with Chat Geppetto on it. And you hug that pillow nice and tight every night. You give it a nice little squeeze, and you're just like, ah, Chat Geppetto. Ah. Cheap viewers buy now, link in bio, yeah. Just admit it, Freedom. You're just a Chat Geppetto lover, and you're here to shill for Chat Geppetto. Just admit it. And then Arvis will time you out. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't make fun of his Chat Geppetto safety blanket. He's gonna throw some kind of Chat Geppetto answer back at me. This is why Freedom takes so long to respond. He's literally typing out what I'm saying in Chat Geppetto and then responding. Does Chat Geppetto response yell out, I'm a real coder? Maybe. So yeah, there's like 2 or 3 new people on the Twitch side anyways. Careful, Chat Geppetto knows everything about us, yeah. Including home addresses, it's true. It's true. The point of this stream so far today, so normally I do some Zig and WebAssembly. Normally I do Laravel and htmx, but today I've been trying to prove that website and software has become worse over time. Degraded, I don't know, slower, more bloated, things like that, more defects, more buggy. And there are actually, I cannot find hard empirical studies to that effect. But I think we found some indicators, like trends that are leaning towards that direction. And I think it's going to have to be enough. Unless I go through like 10,000 sites on my own and structure the data, it's going to have to be enough to point to indicators. And then take arguments further from there. Because I think we can be doing better in the industry, a lot better. Anyway, I don't know. I think I'm gonna put that down for today. But what thanks for all the new to all the new people who've joined. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Normally I actually code. Let me show you what I normally do, because I think you guys might find it interesting. Okay, and then open up a new tab. Let me show you what I do. Here. So I'm working on this thing. So it's a video game that's I use Zig. I compile it to WebAssembly. Here. So I use Zig. I compile it to WebAssembly. I take the Zig code, which is basically C, and then I run it on the browser, and I turn off GPU acceleration and no canvas or anything like that. Just DOM elements and JavaScript, with a lot more limitations under the hood as well. And I've been building that with my Twitch viewers on stream to show that difficult things are not as difficult as you might think, despite what libraries or influencers or tech Twitter or whatever would tell you. These things are approachable and doable, and you can absolutely do it. I didn't finish high school. I'm an idiot, and if I'm an idiot, there's no reason why you can't do the things that I'm doing and more. You want a sample of alpha engineering? Let's see. What is this? Oh, what is this disgusting code? It seems like you're developing a script that interacts with OpenAI's. Your script seems well structured. Let's break down how the script works. And then it does that. Okay. Do you trust chat? Okay. Do you actually trust Chat Geppetto to give you like super accurate code on this? Or to give you super accurate representations? Like, are you saying that Chat Geppetto couldn't get anything wrong? What are you trying to tell me here, Freedom? Specific tune tips for Spiro. Embrace creativity. Engage in creative hobbies. Set clear financial goals. What is this? No, this is disgusting and gross. I close this. I close this. It's disgusting and gross. I'm not having any of it. Okay. I'm going to end the stream. Sorry, it was a boring stream full of research, but I think we had some good convos. Sylvan, don't underestimate yourself, man. Seriously. Don't let these overarching things, and don't let Freedom DAO especially, don't let Freedom DAO tell you that you're a piece of crap, because that's what he's telling you. Okay? Freedom DAO is calling you a piece of crap. He's saying Sylvan sucks. Hard. Okay? Don't let him say that about you. Those were literally his words in chat. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm gonna end the stream. I'm gonna find someone to raid. I'm gonna be on again either later tonight or earliest tomorrow. I've got work to do, so I might as well do a co-working stream. But if anybody wants to chat with me, I'll be active on Discord. If you want Woozex, had a blast. Oh, I'm glad. So many new people. Thanks. I appreciate all the new people coming in. Listen, guys, if you want to hit me up on Discord, I am going to be active on Discord. Whether I hey, Prosto, look at that. What the heck is up with all these new people? Hey, how's it going? How you doing, Prosto? I'm about to end the stream, man. You came in at exactly the wrong time. So I'm around on Discord all night, whether I stream later tonight or not. If you want to trash talk me or you want to talk about ideas or whatever, you're just a lurker. I appreciate it, Woos. I appreciate the lurking, man. Prosto, we were just going over whether we were trying to find academic studies on whether software and websites have become worse over time. And then we were having discussions about whether libraries are a good thing or a bad thing. I just summed up the 3.5-hour stream for you, Prost. Normally, though, I work on this video game with Zig and WebAssembly. That's what I normally do. So you're welcome back, Prosto. Anytime, you're welcome back. And if you want to make fun of me on Discord or chat about stuff on Discord, I'm going to be on Discord. I might be back later. Big words, I know. Okay, we're going to raid Chris. It's been a while since I've raided Chris. And Chris is a good pal. Chris is a good pal. We're going to raid Chris. And yeah, I'm on Discord if anybody wants to chat, and I might see you later. Worst case, I'll see you guys all tomorrow. I'll be doing some actual work. I have to pay the bills. You guys have a good night or a good day or whatever it is you're having. Have a good one. Thank you to all the new people or the lurkers, I guess, who came in. I do think we had some good chats. I appreciate all the feedback. And last but not least, I've slept with all your moms. I'm your dad. None of your moms are safe. They're all behind me right now, chained to the kitchen stove, as they should be. And y'all can just deal with it. Peace out.